history of this race, and he's the Italian, the type of rider he is. He's a nod from the past. You know, I'm hoping that we're going to have the fireworks and Nibali's going to take the stage win that he's been searching for this whole race, and maybe win the race, or certainly give us a display that shows he's really had a go. But the truth is, I just don't think it's been at all predictable, this race. It's been so difficult to call. Even the sprint stages, you know, we were expecting Viviani, and we saw Calabuem rise from poor form early in the season. The races, for me anyway, I mean, I know Brian's an expert, but it's done nothing short but it's surprised me every day. It's been a great race to watch, but so unpredictable. And you know, we've sat here the last few days and tried to decipher what's happening and wonder why certain teams aren't riding and why such and such is riding. And you know, it's just we're putting it down to the fact that maybe the guys are too tired. It's been too hard. I mean, it's been so unpredictable, and cycling is unpredictable. But I think this has been one that's maybe been confused us the most, really. Yeah. And certainly the last few days when so much was built on these last few days of this race.
Nibali went deep in the Mortirolo and suffered afterwards for it, and I can't really see it. And Matt White's saying he has to go on this climb. I can't see it. With the amount of flat afterwards, it's going to be...
Can he afford to not go on this climb, though, and still make up enough time in Carapaz?
I don't think he'll make up it. He might make time up in Roglic, but I don't think in Carapaz. But then again, there's a stage win up for grabs, and I think the Tifosi, his fans would take the stage one and maybe forget about it. But he has to try. He'll try, but I can't see him going in this climb. The danger of this, we've got Masnada at the front. I think has been one of the revelations of the race. He's won a stage, but you've got a group in between with Zakarin. Zakarin has already won a stage, and he's 10 minutes down in the general classification. Interesting now to see that Micah has put a teammate to the front. Now we're starting to see some teams come to the front, because we had Balka Mollema on the attack just a little bit earlier on at the bottom of the climb. So they're looking to try and conserve their place in the top 10. So Bora Hansgrohe are riding because Zakarin's in the breakaway, which is ultimately helping Movistar just behind, who are trying to control the race.
And Simon, we're focusing on Nibali, I guess, because many of the others in the top 5 certainly will be very happy with a bit of distance from this race to keep the place that they have at the moment. Nibali is the only one who is saying, I won't be happy with second, I won't be happy with third. It is first place or nothing for me. How confident are you that we will see the kinds of attacks from Nibali today that will either see him split this race apart or lose 20 minutes trying?
Well, I mean, he's shown in the past, hasn't he, that he's willing to risk it all. And, you know, in a fair number of those cases, he has indeed come out on top, like that Giro of 2016. It was absolutely fantastic. He was completely out of the picture and then turned it all around. But as much as he's willing to risk losing it all, you know, he's not a foolish rider, and I don't think he'd go on the attack just to please the Tifosi with, you know, 100 kilometres of the stage left to go and then come massively unstuck at the end. That's not going to impress anyone, and, you know, second in the Giro or third in the Giro is better than nothing. So I think he'll attack if the time is right, but, you know, he's just a great bike racer, isn't he? So he's going to know.
Bradley, you're nodding in agreement there. You think the same. It'll be much more calculated and not just on emotion. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Simon was saying that. It's not about being reckless and just attacking for attacking's sake. He's lying second over the Giro. You know, he could win the stage today if he plays tactic, you know, race for the stage win, and in doing that, something might happen on the last climb. There's no point in attacking on this climb and losing everything. The team have put a lot into this. It's an Italian team, pretty much, although it's Bahrain. It's Italian management, a lot of Italian riders. He's in Italy. As Simon says, there's no point just being reckless and attacking for attacking's sake and losing everything when he could win the stage today. Something might happen in the time trial. We just don't know. It might be raining in the time trial tomorrow. People could crash. I mean, you've got to risk assess and still race that race for the win. But it's not about just being reckless and being foolish, as Simon said.
I think it's a lot of bravado and talk. I can't see it happening. If it was going to happen, we'd see Barry and Merida on the front now, setting a hard tempo, splitting to pieces, and Nibali going on the attack. He's got one rider in front. I think the panel here on the couch are thinking Nibali's not got the legs. He's going to try and win the stage. Whether that pleases the Tifosi, they'll just have to deal with it.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say, he's very emotional, Vincenzo. He says a lot of things that perhaps doesn't mean in that. And a few nights ago, I was sat with Ivan Basso, former winner of the Giro d'Italia, and we were talking about, has Vincenzo got it? Ivan said no, he's not going to win this Giro. He hasn't got the legs. And he tried to ring him and get him on the line, and so, he's convinced he just hasn't got it. That Carapaz is by far and away the strongest rider, and as I've said all along, it's theirs to lose. So I don't know if we're putting too much on Vincenzo, because he's the only one who we expect, potentially at this stage, has the legs to do it, because we haven't written Roglic off, but we've gone, you've done really good, Primoz, you stay there, we're not expecting anything more of you, please don't lose any more time. And it's all on Vincenzo. So I think, that pretty much, as I said before, the GC is there for a reason.
It's a shame Vincenzo didn't pick up the phone. That would have been a good conversation.
Yeah, it was quite late. I think we didn't realise how late it was. And he was probably in bed. 3 gin and tonics, you don't realise what time it is.
Exactly. Simon, you were going to say?
Well, yeah, I think it's often easy to underestimate just how hard it is to attack. Like, we can sit here and be like, Vincenzo's going to attack at this point. If Movistar want to ride at a tempo that means, he's only going to be able to get 20 seconds over the top of the climb having gone full gas, they've got that strength in depth here. And so it's very easy, like I say, to sit here and be like, why isn't he going, or, why can't I do that? But that feeling when you're off the front and you know that you've made a big error and you can't sit up, you've just got to keep going with it. He knows that feeling, and he's not going to be willing to make it, I don't think.
It is so easy to be experts from the sofa, isn't it? I'm going to guess that you won't be going too far from yours today, because this is a stage we have all, in the end, been waiting for. We're trying to take as many of your questions as we can, both mid-stage and afterwards as well. We are reading them all, so do get in touch with any that you might have for Simon, Bradley and Brian using the hashtag #TheBreakaway. For now, though, it's over to your commentary team, Sean Kelly and Rob Hatch.
Il giorno dei giorni, the day of days, is it to be? 5 huge climbs today, 5,500 metres of climbing, the most of any of the 21 days on this Giro d'Italia. A very good afternoon wherever you're watching. Welcome to a beautiful, sunny Dolomite region of Italy. It's going to be visually spectacular. Let's hope the racing lives up to it as well. We have Richard Carapaz in the Maglia Rosa, carrying the hopes of a new cycling nation, hoping to become the first ever Ecuadorian winner of a race on this level. 1 minute and 54 back Vincenzo Nibali, 2:16 back Primoz Roglic, and at 3 minutes and 3 seconds, the babysitter, Mikel Landa, looking after Richard Carapaz, or will he be? On the road at the moment, we have one man up the road. This is Fausto Masnada, who's taken the first intermediate sprint of the day, and as such has basically wrapped up the intermediate sprint classification. Damiano Cima had been leading that, but Masnada wrapping up with one to go late into the stage. You can't imagine that Cima and company will be involved later on. He was one of 12 riders in the initial breakaway. Andrea Amador, Fausto Masnada, Bilbao, Cataldo, the 2 stage winners from Astana, alongside Caruso, Nibali's teammate, Capecchi, Tangut, Nieve, Dunbar, Gebresgabir, Hindley and Zakharin, also a stage winner on what is, at the moment, the hardest mountain stage we've seen. 4 minutes and 4 seconds from Masnada to the Maglia Rosa group. There's about a minute between Masnada and those chasing on, and we are on one of the legendary mountains of this region. This is the Passo Mangin. It's Cima Coppi, the highest point left in this Giro d'Italia. Of course, we were due to have Passo Gavia as Cima Coppi. That's not going to take place this year. Hairpin city either side at the top. Steep up, steep down, technical. And we first came to this mountain in 1976. It's 2019. Anything can happen. Sean Kelly, what is going to happen today?
Well, that is the big question, what is going to happen, and it's been built up a lot this stage, and will we see the big action, and all depend on the race, how it's going, and Nibali going in the attack. I think he's going to try something, but it all depends on the position in the race here, how Movistar control things, how strong they are on the climbs, and we're on the climb now, the big one of the day, the Passo Mangin. Will we see action on that? That's where a lot of people are talking about. We will see the attack, and looking at the breakaway, the men is out front. Nibali has men up there. Astana has men up there. Like, you know, it's certainly in a position now to do something. But will he be able to do it? Has he got the legs to do it? You know, you can talk as much as you like, and he's done it before, but that's in the past. I think we have to look at today and how he's feeling. And when you look at the Movistar, the way they're riding here, and the way their two men, Landa and Carapaz, are performing the last number of days, it's going to be difficult for him to ride away from them. But if he ride away from the other riders from Movistar and just bring the two men with him and a number of the other general classification, you know, the top 4 or 5 guys there, then you can maybe isolate them later. As he will be hoping that the other riders in the GC will start attacking, and that's the only way they can break the Movistar men down. But yeah, for the moment we see other teams also get involved, so when you get into the final days of the race, then the other teams start thinking about their places in the overall standings.
Is it just Nibali they have to be worried about, or can anybody else enter? Is Roglic, for example, too far back at 2:16? Could he take some time today and make them worry tomorrow in the time trial?
Well, I think Roglic will be trying to do something here. Is he capable of doing it? Lopez is the one, you know, he has men up the road, and that is a good situation to be in, because, you know, if he can attack on this climb, which is the one we're all expecting to see, the fireworks starting on the Passo Mangan, but you know, it's there. It's perfectly worked out for them, for Lopez, Astana, and for Nibali, and the others, as you said, Roglic and a number of other riders will try and follow. We can see here Bora Hansgrohe for Michael, but that's controlling for the general classification now, and that's something we see a lot when you get into the final days of the race. But they'll have to try something, you know. You just have to try and see what way the Movistar riders will react. And you know, the team is, you know, it's really impressive. In the last number of days, they seem to be getting stronger right in the front. Yesterday there, you know, with that big breakaway, they were riding really hard out front, and there was only 2 men needed from Movistar to control. So that tells you, like, the strength and depth they have in the team.
Fausto Masnada has already won a stage of this Giro d'Italia. He was the first Italian stage winner, in fact, right at the end of the first week when we were in San Giovanni Rotondo. He won the stage. Conti of UAE Emirates went into pink. Seems a long time ago, doesn't it? This is the other part of the breakaway. It was 12 strong, and there's some strong names in it. Sean was talking about the fact that it's well set up. The tactical pawns are in place. When you look at the 2 men from Astana, Bilbao and Cataldo, both stage winners already. Miguel Angel Lopez took 33 seconds yesterday. He'll be looking to get closer and closer to that top 5. He's 6th at the moment. And then behind, they'll be looking maybe to jump on those moves. This is all that's left of the pink jersey group. Just had the feeling that if something was to happen on this climb, Movistar needed to be more isolated, though. You needed to get rid of an Amador or 2. You needed to put Carretero and Pedrero in trouble and leave Carapaz and Landa on their own. There's plenty of terrain to do that. And the weather's turned out as well. This is the most glorious day we've had of this Giro d'Italia so far. 26 degrees on the road and 43.5 kilometres since the first attacks went. You might be able to see a lot of felled trees on the side of the road as well. There was actually a bit of a disaster in this zone during the winter, and it's needed the help of quite a lot of local volunteers, civil protection officers, and everybody to get the road open again for us to race today. So huge congratulations, well done to them, thanks to them. Let's hope we see a show on the road. Movistar and Bora Hansgrohe working well, and when you look at the numbers that Movistar have left, it's very impressive. Almost a whole team. This is Juiz Mas. The only man who, I was going to say the only man who seems to be missing is Sutelin, but I think he might be hidden in there in about 3rd or 4th position. Astana well represented. Looking at the composition of that breakaway as well. There now, I'll just interrupt because this is what I was talking about. Lots of felled trees, landslides, disasters all over the winter. Heavy rain and snow. But we are open, and hopefully open for business later on. 5 climbs on the way. We've been up Cimacampo already. Now climbing Passo Mangan from the Val Sugana side. There's a lot of trees. It's also wooded on the other side as well. people who get a little bit of a gap on the descent are going to be out of sight quickly. After this, we'll go Passo Croce, which is the mountain we climbed yesterday, but we'll go up from the other side and descend through San Martino di Castroccia, where the stage finished. Then it's Croce d'Aune, and then Monte Avena to finish. This is Masnada. This is the longest and the most difficult climb of the day. The second part of Passo Mangan is where it gets really difficult, though. More irregular gradients here. It's consistently above 10% for the final 6 or 7 Ks, though. Hairpins, it just seems interminable at times. Well, 125 kilometres to go, and with Masnada up the road, the tempo being set behind, people are waiting and waiting and waiting. Nicola Conci had been trying to get into that group. You can see he's 3 minutes 32 behind. He's only got a minute on the Maglia Rosa group. He's rider from Trek Segafredo, maybe just trying to be up the road for if Bauke Mollema has a go. Who's going to have a go? Stay with us to find out. Movement from the peloton, and Giulio Ciccone is off in search of the Cima Coppi prize. Already king of the mountains at this Giro d'Italia. Mathematically, the prize is his. But he obviously feels like he has good legs. And for any rider, not just an Italian, Cima Coppi is something to aim for. It's the big mountain prize. And Ciccone, well, has a date with destiny, maybe.
Well, of course, when you're mountains classification leader, as he is here in the blue jersey, you'd like to win this one, but you know, he's a bit of work to do here because he's taking off at the moment 4:20 down. You can see Masnada is just out in front of the rest of the breakaway. It's going to be a difficult one for him to come across here, but is he thinking more of late in the day? Stage victory, that's just possible as well, so he's trying to ride off the front, but it doesn't look like it's one of these big attacks, and he has a man up the road. Of course, we can see Conci, who is just a minute ahead, and yeah, he's in no man's land there at the moment, and that is a difficult one because we have Masnada here, he's pushing on, and the rest are just working away together there, and of course, you know, they will continue on, just walking at an easier pace. They're not going to really, you know, be worried about Masnada at the moment. And ask myself, why is he riding away at this point? You'd expect him just to stay in the group there, just walk away at everybody else and wait for late on the stage, because at this point to take it up, you know, he's amazing in form.
We've got movement from this group as well, Sean. We have movement from this group, and it looks like Hindley. Sorry to interrupt you there, but Jai Hindley having a go from distance as well. And we're just approaching where the breakaways are now, the hardest section, and those steeper sections, the last 7 kilometres.
Yes, 7 or 8 kilometres to go, and that is yeah, a long way. As we can see here, they are starting to attack each other. Hindley going away, yeah, with 4 minutes plus of an advantage here for the breakaway. You know, the main peloton is a long ways down this climb, so yeah, it's all to happen here. And we're talking about what will happen on the Mangan. There's definitely time to do that for the big favourites back in the main group of the peloton.
5 wins for Giulio Ciccone in a professional career that's 3 years long. This has been his best year without doubt. Stage win after the mighty Mortirolo in the rain the other day. That is one that will go down in legend. And that blue jersey on his back, and it's been the most dominating King of the Mountains performance I think I can remember from the Giro d'Italia.
Yes, he's been impressive, and we've seen riders win in that way, and of the recent years, get into the breakaway, pick up points in the earlier part of the race, and then, you know, on the big stages building on it. That's what he's done here. But the form he's been in, he's been excellent, and you know, we've seen him there, you know, riding for teammates, riding for Bauke Mollema on some occasions when they were in the big breakaway, and still finishing quite strong at the end. He's had an excellent Giro, and you know, getting his stage win, of course, and yeah, winning the mountain jersey so convincingly. You know, an excellent performance.
Yeah, 170 odd points was his lead today, and 147 points remained before the start of the day. Hindley took the points at the top of the first climb of the day. That was the Cima Canto. Getting further into the woods, this road gets very, very narrow. It twists and turns. It's like Hairpin City up at the top. Passo Mangan, that was only built in the 1950s. used for the first time in the Giro d'Italia in 1976. The last time that we passed over this climb was 7 years ago now. 2012, Roman Kreuziger won the stage, actually. And at the end of the day, Joaquim Purito Rodriguez, the Catalan rider from northeast Spain, was in the pink jersey, but of course he wouldn't take it to the end, would he? It was Ryder Hejsdal who took the Giro d'Italia that year. Of course, after we were robbed of the Gavia, we haven't seen too many of these long mountain passes at this Giro. All reserved for today. Temperature down to 11 degrees on the top of Passo Mangin, so big differences between the valley and the top of the mountains today. 26 in the valleys, we're told. And this is Fausto Masnada. Bit of a headwind where he's heading. Again, just look at the destruction caused by all of that rain and the landslides and what have you during the winter. 1 minute 9 seconds over the chasing group. Looks as though Hindley has been retaken. Back in the bunch, 4.5 minutes back. Bora Hansgrohe, who have ridden very, very well. Of course, they'll be hoping that Rafał Majka can consolidate his 7th place, maybe even jump up a little bit. But I think it's been a pretty solid Giro for them, hasn't it?
Well, for the team it's been a really good Giro, and I think Rafał Majka, the way he was looking the earlier part, I was expecting to maybe be a bit better. The last number of days on the mountain stages, the mountain top finishes, he has been struggling, and he looked very impressive in the earlier part of the race. So again, he's a rider, when he's riding well, he shows a bit too much and he attacks a lot, and he attacks at times when really you should maybe wait off a bit. But yeah, sometimes that works out as well. But he seems to be struggling a bit more. But they're interested in holding on to the place in the overall standings, and that's why they're putting a man on the front here for the moment. Maybe he's thinking of the stage as well. If he's being better, you know, you can come better. You go through a patch and you get 2 or 3 days a little bit off, and then you feel that bit better. So possibly they're thinking maybe the stage win would be a possibility for him today.
Just look at the work they've had to do to clean things up. Pretty incredible, really. No wonder it's taken so long. I don't think there'll be any shortage of firewood in this region next winter, though. I've seen logs chopped up on the side of the road and drying out in the sun. Today's stage is basically a circle around the Dolomites, starting and finishing in very close proximity. Feltre was where we started, and we'll finish on Monte Avena and Croce d'Aune. Croce d'Aune has only been used twice during the Giro d'Italia. Never had a stage finish there, though. These are the time gaps as it stands, with 122 kilometres remaining. Fausto Masnada up the road, 1 minute and 8 seconds behind is the group you can see on your screen. Then Nicola Conci, and we did have Giulio Ciccone a few seconds in front of the pink jersey group that is at 4.5 minutes now. Just look how the road has narrowed in the last few kilometres. It's a very good surface at the moment, as you can see, resurfaced recently with all of the bad weather we've had. But it twists, it turns, it gets very difficult. I'm talking a maximum of about 15% and over 10% average for the last 6Ks. In total, you're talking just under 20 kilometres at 7.5%. Movistar still unfazed, unbothered, unruffled. We're well above the snow line when we get to the top. That's at about 1,400 metres, we reckon, at the minute. Today's climb goes over 2,000 metres. It's not actually the highest point of the Giro d'Italia anymore. You know that the Cima Coppi normally goes to the highest point of the Giro d'Italia. That's where there's the prize on the podium at the end. There's the extra King of the Mountains points, a monetary prize too. Plus the history and the prestige of being up there on Great Man Coppi's own prize. One that a lot of climbers want on their honours list. He's approaching the hardest point now anyway, is Fausto Masnada. And he'll be looking there. There's Fausto Coppi. There's another famous Fausto. He's certainly making himself famous at this Giro. The highest point of the Giros in real terms, as we see the gaps there to the different groups. Ciccone getting half a minute now on Maglia Rosa. But the highest point of the Giro is just over 2,200 metres. And that was when we were at Lago Serru. The day that Ilno Zaccarin won. That's been the biggest mountain stage so far. That's where all the gaps seem to have happened, really. And that's where the base for our general classification came from. We touched on that yesterday as well, on that stage where Vincenzo Nibali and Primož Roglic both looked at each other, and it really did lay the foundations for what we see now, because we don't know what's going to happen today. Things could change again, but if things stay the same, there'll surely be quite a bit of regret looking back to that day from Nibali and from Roglic.
Well, I think, you know, the two big men, the two big favourites, as everybody thought were going to be in this race, they started, you know, playing that tactic, looking at each other. One didn't want to ride and carry the other up the climb, and there was 2 days there, the stage 13 to Ceresole Real, which Zaccarin won, and then that stage 14 to Courmayeur, where Carapaz won. The two of them just played about there, and the first one was to Ceresole, where they really played about, and we see there Roglic and Nibali, they just knocked each other out of it and lost a lot of time there, and the following day they did a little bit the same again. I think they'll regret that, and but in hindsight it's easy, and you know, I was thinking at the earlier part of this Giro, they were the two men, Roglic and Nibali, they were going to the big favourites, but Carapaz, what a race he's had and how solid he's been in this race. And when you look at where he's come from, like we talked about it there last night, like he's relatively a new one, and I don't think anybody expected that he would be so solid in the third week of this race. Landa as well, we know in the third week, but he's a rider that loses time trial, he's not great, so he wasn't really regarded as a danger one. And I think the two men, Nibali and Roglic, will regret what they've done in them two stages in the second week of the race.
You sort of understand, though, why they were looking at each other. You said that they were the big names you were looking at, as Ciccone can now see Conchi further up the road. Certainly Richard Carapaz, talented rider we know, but let's not forget that he won a pro stage for the first time in his career only 13 months ago. He was a stage winner at the Giro last year, but the only stage race he's also ever won has lasted just 3 days. Vuelta a Asturias on 2 occasions, last year and this year. Now he's been in the Maglia Rosa for 6 days. 2 more, and he'll go from small 3-day stage race winner to Grand Tour winner in just 13 months. So you can understand why he wasn't their primary concern.
Yes, well, you can see immediately why he wasn't the big worry for them. And you know, winning a stage last year in the Giro, you know, you can win a stage if you're a pretty good climber and you follow there and you wait, and you can win a stage at a mountain top finish or a hilltop finish. So but that doesn't give any indication that you're going to be a contender to win a 3-week tour 12 months later. And when you look at Vuelta a Asturias, like if you look at the list of riders that have won that, well, you know, there's no way they're ever going to win a Giro or a 3-week race. So yeah, you can see now in hindsight is a great thing. And we're all talking about Carapaz, moving team, there's rumours going around, and if it's true, well then fair play, because they've seen something there. And you know, the scouts there for those teams, if if they have signed him up, if he's going to move, that's something we'll wait for. I think more stronger rumours later after this race.
An update on this group is that Lluís Mas has been dropped, so 1 man less for Movistar. And you can just see the pace is increasing so much that Jumbo-Visma are losing a few riders, Mitchelton Scott losing a few riders as well. And I'm looking down at Primož Roglic, and I am not seeing too many black and yellow jerseys with him. I can see 1 in that group for now. He's used to already having to follow. We'll keep an eye on that. 4 minutes 23 behind the lead of the race. This is the group now, and it's going to become a group, I think. It's going to be about a minute ahead of the pink jersey. On the left of your picture, you can see Nicola Conchi, the young Italian rider who rides for Trek Segafredo. He's in the red and white, and in the blue, the Maglia Azzurra, Giulio Ciccone. No stranger on our screens at this Giro d'Italia. One of the neutral service cars just letting him past. And we have reached the more difficult slopes now of the mighty Passo Mangin. Chance for them to collaborate and work together here. Both got to have the legs there. And Conchi, he's got his fan club on the road. You can see that. Conchi, Conchi, Forza Conchi. That's nice to see. I had a couple of tweets from people asking what that sort of W sign was. In Italian, it's like the two V's together. Basically means viva, or long live. You can have it the upside down way as well. And for example, if there's a football team you don't like, you can turn it upside down and then write the team's name. I won't translate what it exactly means, but it's negative. The further we get up, the more flags you see, the more bikes you see, the more fans you see. This is developing and bubbling into one of those mighty days in the mountains. We've still 120 kilometers to go. But Fausto Masnada wants to make history here. Wants to take Cima Coppi. Loads of Slovenian fans the last few days. If Roglic isn't supported in the peloton, he's certainly got support on the side of the road. Now, this group was at a minute from Fausto Masnada the last look we had. And look at the gradient. You can see, Sean, there's a real pronounced increase from what we've seen there.
Yes, you can see there the cars as they move along. You can see there's a very steep gradient, and yeah, it's the perfect place here to really blow this group of favourites apart. What's left of this group here, and will it happen? I'm pretty sure it will. They'll have to try something. We've talked about it many times, and talked about it the studio this morning. We were talking, would we see Nibali trying to do something? And yeah, it's going to happen. Will it really cause problems? That we'll have to see.
Well, we've seen problems develop here. We're seeing a change here at the front of the group because Astana have gone to work. Movistar have lost another couple of men. You could just see Primož Roglic and a couple of his teammates that were left drifting back. This now is Jonas Aguirre. Behind him is André Zeitz. And you can see Miguel Angel Lopez just behind Jan Hurt there. Lopez in the white jersey. Riders drifting and moving already. I just want to be nice to have a good look at that, because I think that there was a Jumbo-Visma jersey who was in trouble already at the back. Just wanted to make sure it wasn't Roglic. Certainly a change then, and if Movistar aren't going to work, Bahrain aren't going to work, Astana certainly are.
Well, I think you have to do it a bit further down the climb, and 6 or 7, 8 kilometers at least. Put the team on the front, just up the pace and just slowly grind them down, and then try and do something with your leader further up as you get closer to the summit.
Well, we'll try and keep an eye on that pink jersey group. As soon as Astana have gone to work, the gap's gone down by about 20 seconds straight away. And with the remnants of all of that bad weather and the trees that were felled, long live the Giro is the message written. Now, Roglic is still in this group, but there's nobody with him. Roglic already isolated for the final 120 kilometres of this race. And it's an uphill battle for him, figuratively and literally.
And Movistar, we can see as well, starting to lose some riders here. So, yeah, Astana, that's what they're setting out to do, to try and, limit the number of riders the two men from Movistar have at the top of this climb.
Well, Miguel Angel Lopez trying something special. He's got two men further up the road as well, let's not forget. It is all set up for him. Movistar will be happy that Amador got into that move. There's somebody still, if things kick off behind, but we knew that Koen Bouwman was trying to get in the move early on for Jumbo-Visma. He failed, and that's a bit of a disaster early on for Roglic.
Yes, and he tried to get across, but just wasn't able to manage to get into the breakaway. And yeah, this is a situation that Nibali will be happy with, because Astana are going to, do a lot of damage here, and he also have a man up the road in Caruso, and we can see also Pozzovivo's there in that group with Nibali. So that's the only way it's going to work, that they can cause problems to Movistar. The other teams start really getting into the race and causing problems, making it difficult for everybody.
Look at the damage being done here. Bobby Ungles, we already know he's not having a good time. A couple of teammates for Roglic behind as well. A couple of Agidazela Mondial riders getting dropped too. Somebody from Bardiani, and this is a big acceleration that has done quite a bit of damage. Riders, ones and twos all over this road. Gap's gone down by 30 seconds in the last kilometre or so. Astana and their pace causing plenty of problems. Sivakov is still in this group. Micah is in the group as well. Hugh Carthy's looking good with two teammates. Simon Yates towards the back of it. And the Maglia Rosa with only Mikel Landa there. Bauke Mollema holds on. Vincenzo Nibali looks on his own as well. But remember, he does have a rider up the road in Damiano Caruso. Well, this is early days, but big work being done by Astana. 3 kilometers to the top of this climb for Fausto Masnada, and he's right in the middle of the hardest part. What's left in those legs after 3 hard weeks? It's been 7 years since we came up this climb in the Giro d'Italia. There's Nibali. It's a big fast pace, this. One more rider for Movistar just at the back of this group. There is Richard Carapaz in the pink. Carthy hanging on at the back now. Ooh, and Simon Yates has lost contact. Wow. Pozzo Vivo also at the back there hanging on and looking comfortable enough. Not good news for Yates, though. Man who'd been looking to consolidate his place in the top 10, maybe even jump up once more. I won't get tired of saying it. What a ride from Hugh Carthy at this Giro. Up with the very best.
Yes, again, he is up there very much with the big ones of the day, and you can see Yates in a bit of difficulty, but again, you know, if he can keep with his teammate here and just plug away. But they're yeah, quite a bit down the climb. We did see the leader on the road, Masnada, they are going through the 3 kilometers to go, and it should depend on what happened up front here. If there's an attack, we can see the gap. You know, it's only what, 100 meters, 70 meters, and you know, you can hold at that, okay, but if it does attack up front, that's where Yates will have difficulty limiting his losses here to get back on the descent.
Joris Aguirre is done. His acceleration caused a lot of damage, and it's now down to the ever-reliable Andre Zeitz. Miguel Angel Lopez is waiting to launch. Superman, with his cape flying yesterday, took 43 seconds back. We know that he's finding his legs. He sits a long way from the top of the race still. Astana have him at 5 minutes and 33, but he's not too far from the top 5. There's Ilno Zakarian, who got himself in the break today. Looking around that group as well that's in the breakaway, and I might be being a little mischievous here, but Vincenzo Nibali not only has a teammate, he also has quite a few mates. Mates who've done things for him in the past, who are now in other teams. Tanil Kangat, for example, at EF Education First. Of course, his primary concern, I think, will be helping out Hugh Carthy, if he can get up there as well. But Kangat was there on that day to Sant'Anna di Vinadio when Nibali last turned it round in 2017, or 2016, pardon me. There's also the likes of Cataldo and Bilbao, who are there for Lopez, but we know that Nibali still has a lot of friends in Astana, including a famous sports director who's behind their strategy, a man who's won the Giro d'Italia with several different riders, Beppe Martinelli. This is Masnada. And those on the side of the road with a front row seat to the action. Zeitz, what a small select group this is already. And this is pretty incredible with 120k still to go.
Yeah, it is a tiny group, and what have we got, about 12 or 14, 12 riders maybe, and yeah, 118 kilometers still to go, and lots of mountains to get over, and yeah, this is the situation that some of the GC men want to be in, because now we have the Movistar team. They are the 2 men. You know, they're going to have to control other riders if there is attacks, but you can see, I think Lopez is not done here. He's going to try something before we get to the top of this big climb of the day, like Passo Croce.
Another man down. Zeitz is done, and it's Jan Hurt who takes off. Hurt, who is in the running for the stage win, remember. That's Carretero at the back in the blue jersey. He was the last remaining man for Movistar who wasn't one of their 2 leaders. Zeitz is finished. Jan Hurt second on the day of the Mortirolo when he was beaten in the sprint, the 2-up sprint, by Giulio Ciccone. Past Nicola Conci they go. This is some pace being set by the Maglia Rosa group. And in the last 3 kilometers or so, the gap's gone down by around a minute. Ciccone is going to be caught as well now. Carthy hangs on. Pozzo Vivo hangs on. Rafał Majka's still there. From right to left, it's Hurt, Lopez, Carapaz, Landa. Then in the red, you have Nibali, Mollema. In the yellow, you have Roglic. Then it's Pavel Sivakov. Hat off to him at 21 years of age. Pozzo Vivo in the pink towards the back of EF Education first. The man from Preston, Hugh Carthy. And then Rafał Majka hanging along behind Nicola Conci. This is quite some race. It's developing into a very special day. And once the attack goes, how are we going to react? Because it is coming from Lopez, isn't it? It's on the way.
Well, I think it has to come from Lopez, and you know, this is the first time we have seen Movistar pretty much isolated at this early stage in the day today, and that is something that the other ones will be looking about now. They will be realising what's happening here. And when you look at, you know, we have Nibali, Roglic, Mollema, Lopez is there, Mike is there, so all these guys, you know, they're prepared to ride, but they have to get rid of the two men from Movistar. They're just going to follow and leave the other ones do the riding.
Hugh Carthy in a little bit of trouble for the first time. Just on the right-hand side as we looked at it, right at the back of the shop now in the pink and blue jersey. Also, Rafał Majka is having to work hard to make sure he tries to pace himself back to the group. The pace is that little bit higher now, and we're inside the final 2.5 kilometres of the top of this climb, the Passo Mangin. The team cars are being pulled back from the breakaway as well up the road. And we're inside 3 minutes of a gap. This is Hurt. Behind him, Lopez. How's Richard Carapaz going to react? It's only his 3rd year as a professional. Hurt is done, and here goes Superman. Lopez on the attack. Now who can follow and who can't? The first victim looks to be Pavel Sivakov. Roglic is still on the back. Nibali's there, Landa and Carapaz. The Colombian climbing very, very quickly. So 5 at the front. Oh, Nibali! Vincenzo Nibali cracks. Now, is it a brief moment, or is this his Giro going up in smoke? Primož Roglic is with him. Lopez, Carapaz, Landa, all three looking the strongest. Well, Nibali and Roglic didn't last too long there, Sean.
No, I think this attack, a big one here, but we can see Nibali, he's just going to work on it with Roglic and continue on setting, and this Lopez is going to have to do the riding here, because the other two men from Movistar, Carapaz and Landa, they're just going to follow for the moment. And I don't think Nibali is totally finished yet, and with Roglic, I think he will just keep on grinding away at it, and if they can stay together, we could see them coming back.
Well, that's what they're going to get a little bit of help here. Pavel Sivakov, Primož Roglic, Vincenzo Nibali. They know they're not too far from the top of the climb at least, but Movistar see this as well as an opportunity to pick up more distance ahead of the time trial tomorrow and cement this victory. Mikel Landa riding for Primož, certainly not for Primož Roglic, he is riding against Primož Roglic. Mikel Landa here riding for Richard Carapaz. 2 minutes 22 the gap. Miguel Ángel Lopez wants to catapult himself up as close to the podium as possible. It needs something extra special for that to happen, and they're pretty good allies, aren't they, here, Astana and Movistar?
Yes, well, they are, and they're working pretty quickly together. I was expecting the two Movistar men to just wait for a moment and leave Lopez just ride on for a while and then see as we get closer to the summit here, but they want to push on, and you know, when you look at the distance here, still 117 kilometers to go for our leaders. You know, will they be allowed to do that? Will they continue on working with Lopez? I'm not sure if they will give it their 100%, but yes, Landa here wanting to push on, and this is going to be an interesting one.
He's in full Landani mode now, climbing in the drops. Mikel Landa Meana, always a threat. Also, he wants to get onto the podium. He's babysitting Carapaz, but if he can put more time into Roglic, he has a chance at the podium. There are 47 seconds between Roglic and Landa. He's only ever been on the podium of a Grand Tour once. Remember, he was famously a second away, wasn't he, when he was helping Chris Froome to win in 2017, and he finished 4th. But Landa was 3rd in the Giro the year that Fabiano was 2nd and Alberto Contador won in 2015. You think he needs more than 47 seconds, though, on Primož Roglic because of the time trial tomorrow. He needs a good gap, doesn't he?
Yes, well, he definitely needs a big gap because, you know, his time trialing is always the weaker point for him, and yeah, he wants to get on the podium, and we can see there, yes, Landa definitely wants to push on here, and yeah, if they all three ride together, I suppose, and also Lopez, he wants to ride as well. He wants to move up. So yeah, there's a lot of things, you know, changing here. So there's interest for the riders here to push on, and you know, the question is, you can see they're looking around there. It'll be interesting to see where Sivakov, Roglic and Nibali is, how far they are.
Yeah, we've no time gap yet. No time gap yet, but this is Group 4 on the road. Nibali, Roglic and Sivakov. Those of you asking about Simon Yates, I'm afraid he was one of the first big favourites to be dropped. All depends what happens on these mountains. There are lots of teammates in and around for these riders further up the road as well. There's one for Mitchelton Scott and Simon Yates if there is a little bit of a truce in the group up the front. That's Mikel Nieve. Astana and Lopez have two riders up there with Bilbao and Cataldo. Andre Amador is further up the road for Movistar. So these are the best two teams in terms of their positioning of riders up the road. And, of course, it seems the strength of the climbing, it's two. Nibali, Roglic, Sivakov. Let's see if we can have a look up the road to see what the distance is. They're up right above the snow line now. It's a spectacular sight on Passo Magnan. A roller coaster in the Dolomites. You've got to go up and down a fair few times yet. And again, has anybody gone too soon? Has there been a miscalculation of effort? That's something we won't find out until the end of the day. This, though, is Lopez taking off. Carapaz reacted well. No signs of Landa going rogue. And maybe we're being a little unfair to him. He's very rarely done that, actually. He's done a great job to help his leaders. Even though he's wanted to lead himself during his career, he's been there. And his fans from the Basque Country on the side. 200 metres to the top then for Fausto Masnada, who is going to take Cima Coppi. Well, a stage win in San Giovanni Rotondo. A date with destiny. Of course, he's called Fausto. Cima Coppi taken by little Fausto this time. It's Fausto Masnada who zips up, takes the points, will have his prize on the podium tomorrow. Now, 116 kilometres to go. Can he stay at the front and win Trofeo Torriani? It's a big ask with these chasing on behind. 1 minute and 39 behind. They can't be too far off now, making contact with the break up the road. And as soon as I say that, they come in a shot. So they're going to get allies, and this is a dangerous moment for Nibali and company behind, isn't it? Because they're going to see their mates up the road quickly, and they're going to be able to rest in that little bit earlier.
That is the danger one now, because they have the manpower up front. Astana have two men, and Movistar have a man up here, so it's going to be a difficult one for the... If we could see how far Nibali is back, looked like that Sivakov was setting a real strong pace, the Ineos rider, and we know the way he's just one of these power riders, so maybe they're not that many seconds back here. We'll have to see if we can just pan back a bit and see the distance, as we can see all coming together here in the front. And yeah, this is a dangerous group now, because the teammates of the Astana man and the Movistar man, they're going to push on.
Sivakov stronger than Roglic and Nibali here. We have marvelled at the 21-year-old former under-23 Giro winner's form in the last 3 weeks. Today he's confirming what we thought of him. Over the top then for the Maglia Rosa. Just 1 minute and 25 seconds behind the man who took Cima Coppi, Fausto Masnada. The gaps aren't huge, however, here, and with the descent coming up, there might be a chance and a second chance for Nibali and Roglic.
20 seconds.
20 seconds. That's doable on the descent, isn't it, for these guys?
Yes, I think it's possible. And you know, with Nibali here, he will really push on here. And yeah, but the other ones will try and push as well. But I think they've limited the losses quite well there, and they have Sivakov just out in front.
Well, we'll see what happened. Did they know that they could play it like that? Were they trying to save something, or were they really out of gas? Fausto Masnada on his way down, and remember, the start in particular of this descent is just as difficult as the climb was. It's technical, it's twisty, it's turny. Look at how narrow the road is. Fausto Masnada taking Cima Coppi, the first headline of the day. Plenty more to come, though, with the attacks launched behind. The game is on. The Maglia Rosa is in play. It's the final big day of this Giro d'Italia. It's been a bit of a disaster area this winter over Passo Mangin. No disaster for Nibali and Roglic. Rafał Majka's back on with them. Pavel Sivakov, a little bit of a victim of the superior descending abilities of Nibali, Roglic and company, and that 20-second gap was closed quite easily, wasn't it?
Very quickly, and I think up front there was a little bit of regrouping there, and they did not know exactly what to do. You could see there the Astana were having a talk, and I think they didn't really push on immediately, and for that reason whoever was leading down out of the group out front, they weren't pushing at a very fast pace. But Nibali, he did, really push it on. You could see there, the gaps was appearing. Roglic was having difficulty staying the wheel, but we know Nibali, when he goes for the descent, well, then he's one of the best descenders in the peloton, and back very quickly into the front of the race. But we can see here on the descent there's riders everywhere coming down this mountain.
And Nibali on the back of this group. The problem is now both he, Roglic, have run into a little bit of traffic. Sean was saying that there's riders everywhere. You see gaps opening up. There's one particular rider here trying to take it up at the front. The gap to the next rider. And then there's a group of 3 and 4. Then another gap opens up. Nibali already moving up through a little bit of traffic there. He's alongside Capecchi in the break for the Koenig Quick-Step. Rafał Majka on the back. Pavel Sivakov's the man who's suffered the most so far on the first 3 or 4 kilometres of this descent. It's a long descent too. The first 7 or 8k are the most technical, the most difficult. Again, as we see more images of the devastation caused over the winter. And watch out for the sounds too from the cars and the bikes. I heard a skid there. It's hard enough for the bike riders.
And we're getting into the section here under the trees. We did see the first number of kilometres, very open, plenty of light, and that is it's great because you get a clear view. But when you go under the trees, the eyewear, you don't have as good a vision, and that's something that you have to be careful with. And as you can see, the shadows here, all of that. But it is a very good surface here. I don't think they're going to really take big risk at this point. Still, 109 kilometres to go. It's all about getting down here, and it's just the ones who are not comfortable on the descent are having a little bit of difficulty following there in the earlier part, especially Sivakov. He lost rapid ground there when Nibali pushed on.
He has done bar up in this group at the front. I know we marvel about his descending quite a lot, and so much that it becomes cliched at times, but Vincenzo Nibali has made his way through a heck of a lot of traffic to move right up through that group there.
Yes, well, when you're comfortable on the descent, you can do that, and you just pick them off one by one, and you get a little bit of a straight. Immediately you take 1, 2 riders, and very
problems
quickly.
For Ilnud Zakarin. Sorry to interrupt, but problems for Zakarin, and that is no surprise, I'm afraid. See if we can see what happened there, but he's back on the bike, whatever happened. And it's just 1 minute and 10 seconds now between Masnada and the Maglia Rosa group. Zakarin to the back of that group, and another problem, as I think we might be able to get a look at exactly what happened here. This is Majka at the back. Zakarin, well, thankfully stayed on. Oh, he has history, doesn't he? Remember the day that Kruiswijk went into the snow? Zakarin ended up on the side of the mountain, didn't he? That was a worry for a while.
Well, we could see there in that corner, Majka had to correct a little bit of gravel on the right-hand side, and Zakarin was the far side. Did he go down because he was a bit further up? Didn't look like it, but yes, he had his foot out, so I think he got quite a big scare there, and hopefully he didn't go down, because that's not good for later with all the descents that we have. And this one is a long descent. It's 16 kilometres of descending, and yeah, luckily that. These descents in the end of the stage. If you had a big descent like this at the very end of the stage, and that's where Zakarin would be in difficulty. But when we know his descending qualities, he does struggle.
This is faster Masnada, his advantage being reduced by the pedal stroke. Of course, the fact that he's got his jersey open is not going to help. It's not really doing the job either there, protecting the chest. 1 minute 5 seconds. Stunningly beautiful. Down the Basso Mangin for the first time in 7 years on the Giro. Now this is Zakarin. Another gap opened up in front. Majka's in this group. There's Nibali. And he's right up to the Maglia Rosa. Well, Richard Carapaz might have thought he'd seen the last of Nibali for a while. He's right back, almost on his wheel. Same with Lopez. And the little mental win for Movistar and Astana, though, is that they knew who the strongest riders are on the climbs. Next climb's going to be difficult to distance people, but it is the distance of the climb that will make any sort of difference. The Passo Croce, talking over 20 kilometres. No huge gradients, however. They come close to the end. Certainly the cards are being played. It'll be good once we get into the bottom of this climb. We start climbing again, and then there's a little bit of false flat where the feed zone is, approaching the second intermediate sprint. That's right at the bottom of the Passo Croce. We might be able to see a group come together. An idea of who is where, what time gaps are back to those lieutenants and the other leaders who had dropped, the likes of Simon Yates, etc. For now, Fausto Masnada's up in front, but with what's behind it, he's got Cima Coppi. He can't be expected to solo away to the win today. He's nowhere near enough time.
No, with the action kicking off behind, there's no chances. We can see he's coming down rapidly. His advantage here, and you know he got, I think, maybe what he set out to do, get to the top of this climb in the first position and take the prize here, and now he knows that he just ride in the valley here, but yeah, we can see there not anything happening for the moment here. There's a looking around, all waiting, nobody wanted to ride here in this group of favourites, and that will give advantage to the riders who got dropped further back the mountain here to get back into the race again.
Chat there between Roglic and Nibali. They could be decent allies today. And we are seeing the establishment of this group. Now then, how do we take it?
You can see Mikel Nieve there having a look around to see if Yates is in this group, but he's not part of the riders coming up for the moment. But I think if they continue on like this, well, then we will see a good lot of riders getting back into this group.
46 seconds behind Masnada. Well, with those early tactical moves, Astana found themselves with two extra helpers now, with Bilbao and Cataldo. Another extra man for Movistar and Amador as well. Nibali found his mate Caruso. You just wonder how far Pozzovivo was behind, whether he could get back into the group and be of some assistance on the Passo Croce. We've had the first little selection. How do you think that Movistar and Astana will feel about that? I mean, I think they'll be happy they saw themselves as the strongest on the climbs, but maybe they wanted more?
Well, I think they will be happy with what they see on the climb. And they see Nibali and Roglic in difficulty, so they're going to say, well, let's calm things down. There's a lot more difficult terrain to be got over here before we get to the finish at this stage today, and they have the numbers up front, and Movistar, of course, they're going to not ride here because they have men who are just further back, and they'll be hoping that maybe some of the teammates will get back in with the groups coming up here, and it will be all down to the next climb, the Passo Croce, where we will see again the action, I think, hitting off, and they will just drive it up the climb and try and break it, and that's the point where you can go on all the way to the finish, because at the Passo Magnan, it's a long ways to go to the finish, and it's a danger one, because if you start riding there, if you're a GC man, and you could pay for it in the end. You could get that big hit of the hammer, as they say.
Well, we'll wonder if anybody made too much of an effort, and we might find out towards the end today. Present, there you go, mate. Made his day, that. No team car there for him to give it away to. This is Pello Bilbao. Where is he?
Up front.
Yep, just up the road, driving it on a little. Again, maybe trying to get a little further up the road once more for Lopez. Because they have Cataldo in this group with them now, don't they? You get the feed zone coming up as well. It's 28 seconds to Masnada, though. And there is a short rise. They rise for about 200 metres. There is a bit of climbing to be done at the bottom of this descent, but it's not classified. Takes them onto a bit of a plateau for a good 10 to 15 kilometres. That's where the feed zone is placed. And then when they get to Predazzo, there's the second intermediate sprint, and the 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds, let's not forget, right at the foot of the climb of the Passo Croce. Approaching the only sort of rest period of the race is now we see Mikel Nieve. Where's Simon Yates, though? One of the first riders in the big name group to be distanced. So here's Masnada at the bottom of the descent for the Passo Mangin. We did see action. We have seen fireworks. More of a Catherine wheel, though, than those big ones you see going off in the night sky. Saving those for later as we head into the final 100 kilometres. Caruso, as they continue to drive it on. This group grows and grows all the time. So we've started. Do not go away. Plenty more to come. The last time there was an all-English Champions League final in the football, Spanish riders won all 3 Grand Tours. There's no Spanish rider in pink yet, but Mikel Landa's just gone up the road to follow a move from Caruso, and the pink jersey himself, Carapaz, watches Nibali and Roglic. There's a Spanish team in control. They've won it before. They know how to control the race. This is Movistar's 23rd Giro d'Italia in 40 years of their existence. Sean, that was interesting that Landa was the man who did the covering there. Probably for the first time in this last week of the Giro that he's not been with the pink jersey and he's been used to cover the attacks as a tactical pawn.
Yes, I think, well, it's a tactic to do because, you know, if Landa just follows here with the group going up the road, and we can see Astana want to put a man, notably Bilbao, and other riders trying to get across, and, you know, Landa up there, well then, there's other ones going to chase, and we did see immediately it was Roglic who came across that gap and closed it down here as they continue on to attack. And the surprising one is that I thought we would see Yates getting back in with a group because he didn't look to be too far on the climb, but again he must have struggled on the final kilometres. As we can see, Nieve is very active. He's trying to get into the moves here, so that tells that Yates is not on the way up for the moment. But,
here he is.
Here we come.
They're listening to you. It's Esteban Chavez and Simon Yates. Saying no, it actually looks like Lucas Hamilton and Simon Yates. Caruso waiting this time as Bilbao goes up the road. There's a lot of playing about here. Instead of the group just getting established and waiting for the next climb, we've got movement. Everybody's still wanting those pawns up the road. I know it's always not easy to understand how important teammates can be, as Nibali's trying to make a move now. And of course he's going to be stuck to like glue by Carapaz. Hugh Carthy, who got back in, tries to close the gap. There's Roglic further down the group too. Well, don't need to wait for final climbs or anything like that. They're kicking the living daylights out of each other.
Yes, well, this is something they will maybe pay for later on if they continue on to attack each other. Well, when you get on to the big climbs, then you know, everybody will be after being tested a lot, and it is getting really tactical here. There's, you know, teams trying to get riders up the road, and other teams wanting to get guys across. As you can see here, you know, it's continuing on. Astana is the ones who are really pushing on here. We can see Bilbao, but again, he's looked around there, and too many riders getting an easy ride here, and yeah, it's going to continue on like this, attack after attack, until we get a group of the riders who are not really the danger men to get out of here, as Nieve tries something.
He's behind, and well behind in the general classification. He's 19th overall at 27 minutes 12 seconds. But he'd be a good man to go with. We know all about his quality as a climber. One of the very best Grand Tour riders as a pure climber in the world. Not as a GC man, but as a teammate and, of course, as a man to win stages. This is now Amador. Of course, we saw Landa in the move, and maybe the reason that Nibali blinked first and decided to close that gap with Caruso. First signs of calm for the last few kilometres. What an intruding Roch this is. Tanel Kangat in there alongside Hugh Carthy for EF Education first. Masnada towards the back of this group now. And Eros Capecchi hanging on. He's had a decent Giro d'Italia. Been in lots of moves. The Koenig Quickstep have won a stage at each of the past 6 editions of the Giro, 2013 to 2018. This year have so far failed. They have 2 days left. Bob Jungels dropped on the Passo Mangan early on. Is Hindley back on for Sunweb? Just 4 men left in the race for them, remember. Dunbar is the man who is with Sivakov. And up the road, it's the 2 Basque riders. Miquel Nieve Iturralde and Pello Bilbao Lopez. Both riding for different teams. Nieve, the man from Mitchelton Scott, the Australians who won their first stage of this particular Giro 24 hours ago through Esteban Chavez. Chavez, by the way, picking up the 80th Colombian stage win in Grand Tours. 14th Mitchelton stage in this particular race. Now, Lopez again. I say no, pardon me, that's another white jersey. Lopez is in that group. This is Gebrai Zabier. He's been the one shining light, really, for Dimension Data. Kangat's going up the road with him, and Dunbar too. Empathy behind is, I imagine, pretty good with those who've missed the move. In the meantime, not too much empathy there. Tempers frayed as Kangat decides to leave them both behind.
Yes, as they're having the discussion behind there, and we've seen it yesterday. You're getting to that point of the race, everybody, you know, starting to suffer here, and fatigue, and yeah, after 3 weeks of racing it's a bit normal, and it looks like Dunbar, was he trying to sit on there, but certainly the discussion that they're trying to get each other to contribute, the 3 men who are chasing.
Little conversation there between Roglic and Sivakov. There's Emmanuel Gebrai Xavier Verkhilul from Eritrea, rides for Dimension Data alongside Eddie Dunbar and Tanel Kangat. Nieve and Bilbao. No communication problems there. They share 2 languages, Basque language and the Spanish. So we've got to that part of the stage now where another pattern's been established. We've seen the first big moves between the big riders. Realistically, with the terrain coming up, we're not going to see any more big moves until we get to that next climb, the Passo Rolle. Things are being set up for more action. Be really intrigued to get a reading from our other experts to see how things have gone so far. So for the next few minutes, you'll hear the voices and thankfully see the faces of Simon Richardson, Brad Wiggins, Brian Smith, and over to you, Orla Chenoui.
Thank you very much, Rob. Yes, we had been hoping for fireworks today, and the sparks are already starting to fly. Bradley, what have you made of what we've seen from the main contenders so far?
I wouldn't say it's been fireworks, but they've
I said sparks. I said
yeah, they've lit little sparklers.
Well, that's what I said. Yeah.
But what it does do, no, do you know what? I didn't want to build my hopes up too much because I just wasn't sure what was going to happen. I thought, the severity of the stage. But they have actually, we saw some attack in there. We saw Vincenzo Nibali dropped with Roglic. We've seen them talking to each other. I mean, it has given us something to talk about, which is fantastic. But once again, Movistar, when anything happens, it's Landa and Carapaz, and it's the same old story. Now we've got 100k to go. I wouldn't say they're attacking, but they're certainly not content with staying as a group, which I think, with the severity that left in this stage, is all set now for actually a brilliant final. And we can't wait now. It's actually given us something to really talk about and watch.
Brian, how much can we have learned and how much can they have learned about each other's form right now from what we've just seen?
Well, I think it's been shown in that last climb that they called the Mongun climb that you've got Lopez on good form, Carapaz and Landa are up for it. So you've got the 3 strongest climbers there. Interestingly enough, after the descent, Nibali went to chat with Roglic. Don't know what they chatted about, but I would
Well, we
think...
don't know, but let's speculate.
Yeah.
What could it have been?
I would
Oh,
think...
let's have some fun.
Yeah. Was it fun?
No, I'm saying, so let's have some fun with it.
Joking.
But,
No, they talk to each other, I think, about maybe... Because they've spent all race, like, dissing each other. And I think now's the opportunity to try and stay on the podium, I would think. So they've obviously had a bit of a chat about it. Roglic is in his own. Caruso's there with Nibali. And I think they want to try and stay on the podium. That's what I'm thinking.
yeah, look, we can only sit here and speculate. I said Vincenzo got dropped. I mean, I've said how crafty and wily he is and how much of a racer he is. You know, it's easy to just assume that Carapaz and Land, because they're so strong, just rode away then. There's so much length left in the stage. I mean, you know, I'm kind of... I wouldn't question Vincenzo, and I almost wouldn't put it past him that I'll lose 100 metres, I'll lose 150 metres and pretend I'm getting dropped. I know this descent like the back of my hand. We watched that descent, it was put right up Vincenzo. I'm always going to get back on them guys down the descent. They're not going to continue riding as a free. But what we'll do is they'll think that I haven't got the legs today. That could be a possible scenario with him. And he's the type of rider that has got the confidence to drop back and do that. And, you know, we watched Froome get dropped, etc., etc. But Chris Froome gets dropped through a process of I'm going to stay at the same watts or I haven't got the legs. Vincenzo is, as I've been saying the last few weeks, is the craftiest, wiliest GC rider in this top 10.
And that's why I asked the question what the riders will learn of each other's form from what's just happened, because they may have learned absolutely nothing. It depends on who's bluffing.
Well, they'll learn what they think, the perception of what they've seen. That might not be the reality. And we don't see that a lot these days. Eno was famous for it. Lance Armstrong did it in the 2000s. You know, bluffing, getting the other riders to think what they want to think. You know, I don't know if they're thinking of that scenario, and it's, you know, I mean, you just don't know. But what I will say, Vincenzo is capable of something like that.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. What do you think, Simon?
Well, I mean, like you say, we haven't seen that very much, have we? It would be a masterstroke on his part if that was all pantomime. I just think it's that early in the stage that, you know, to act like that and let the wheel go. I mean, that would take supreme confidence. I think even Nibali maybe hasn't got that.
But should we not underestimate him when he says this is win or nothing?
Yeah, well, I mean, I really hope you're right, because I think that would make for one of the best
days.
days
One
racing
rider
ever.
in this peloton that would have the confidence and the backing of the team and actually sit up and say to Brent Copeland and those guys, Volpe, they've been his whole career virtually through the Liquigas days and everything. You know, it's worth a try, because these guys ain't going to expect that.
Can you imagine on the team bus where he'd be like, right, this is our tactics, lads, today, and he just pipes up and like, you know what, I'm going to get dropped on purpose on the biggest climb of the day, and they'd be like, what? What are you talking about, Vincenzo? I mean, you know, that would be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
Put it the other way, flip it. Who would have expected Chris Froome to attack 80k to go last year and have that game plan and blow the race apart? It was a risk and he won. We're all saying for the weeks now, he's got to go, he's got to go, he's got to go on this climb, he's got to attack, he's got to attack. Who would have expected him to go, he's got dropped? Think about it. I don't want to put things in your head.
But I do, and it's there.
OK, no, it's good. But the other interesting fact about this stage today is Astana. Astana seem to be, I think, one of the strongest teams now in the
Lopez
race.
is looking good again, isn't he?
Yeah. They've got 2 riders in the initial break. It's all reset again. And it was Bilbao that really was trying to force again. So he's got himself in the front move. I think the losers of this game at the moment seem to be Movistar, because Movistar are only down to Amador, Carapaz and Landa at the moment. That's all I can see. And they've been forced into riding. One other rider could possibly be there. It looks as if, yeah, a couple of riders have come back up to help them. So they've decided, strength in numbers, wait for the riders coming from behind, take control. But I think it's a bit of a masterstroke from Astana, putting another rider in front for Lopez to go on the attack yet again. We've already seen a good race in the first 2 climbs. It's reset again, and then they've started racing again, and Astana put. And I think it's absolutely fascinating to see these things work. If it works in the end, if this masterclass of Nibali works, brilliant. But I think Lopez has got his own masterclass going on as well.
And what about Roglic then, Simon? Because he's the one rider of those top 5 who didn't have anyone in that initial break. He's got no team support. Would it make sense for him to form some sort of an alliance with Nibali, Bahrain?
I can't see what Nibali would get out of an alliance with Roglic, to be honest with you. That would be my confusion there. I think he's probably just going to be hanging in there and just floating. I suppose to a certain extent the eyes are going to be on Movistar and Astana instead, so he's got the luxury, hasn't he, of being like, you know, it's poor old Roglic, he's on his own.
They're threatened by Landa for the podium spot. That's the only thing.
Who,
Roglic and Nibali.
They are, but I just think he's got to play the cards he's got, hasn't he? Which is following wheels and hoping to minimise his losses. But I think he seems like quite a cool customer, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So I think he's probably going to be all right in this one.
It's great seeing that this is a stage of 2 halves, as they say in football, game of 2 halves. We've seen the first half.
It could be 3/3 yet, we don't know how many different phases it's going to have, though, do we?
And now Movistar have taken control of the race again. They've waited on the riders that were dropped. They've come to the front. They're controlling things. The gap is at 1:30, which isn't that bad. But I think the white jersey, definitely Lopez looks as if I've been disappointed all the way through the race, because when I think he's come good, he's went bad, and it's been to and fro a little bit. But over the last few days, he has looked good.
And we could just see as well, once again, the complete lack of support for Primoz from Lotto Jumbo. I mean, it's stark. I mean, we don't see any of the other riders. And this guy, you know, the performance he's put in this last 3 weeks, particularly this last week, just an individual, no one to back up. And I just think, you know, how different this race may have been with Robert Hessink if he hadn't had that horrendous crash. And that you know, the experience of him, you would imagine him to be in this group now. It's just someone to talk to out of your own team, a friendly face. Just go back and get a bolt. He's got to do all that on his own.
To be fair, that might be why he's talking to Nibali. It's just lonely.
Yeah.
Just like,
lend me a mark.
Nobody to talk to.
Yeah.
I mean, for
and
someone
special mention as well to Hugh McCarthy.
Hugh Carthy,
Hugh's
yeah.
McCarthy.
And Eddie
yeah,
Dunbar. Eddie Dunbar is right.
Yeah, I mean,
the
these
race of
guys
his
have all
life.
come to the fore right at the end of the race. Hugh's just been consistent day after day now towards the end, and it's superb to still see him at the front. And yeah, I mean, the same names, but some real consistent names of young guys we've been bigging up for the last couple of weeks.
And some real standout individual performances. And when we look at Primoz Roglic and how much he'd been bigged up coming into this race, arguably his has been the race of the Giro d'Italia, has it? Because he's had to do it all, not all on his own, but certainly with an awful lot less support than any of the others.
Well, yeah, I mean, we expected a GC performance from him because of what we saw at the Tour de France last year. So the expectation was from the start, well, he's won everything this year, he's going to win this race. So I wouldn't say, for me, I would say that Carapaz is probably obviously going to win the race. So it's a huge performance, but the breakthrough of Hugh Carthy, Siakov, those young guys in that top 10, I think, you know, they're the future of the sport, and particularly the British riders. You know, Simon Yates hasn't lived up to the expectation we hoped. But from that kind of disappointment of Simon, we've got another British rider. I mean, we kind of think is the end of this British reign of I won't say dominance, but of the production line of young British talent. And suddenly we've got a new one that we've always been aware of, but has come to the fore and think, actually, we've got another one now. He could win a Grand Tour one day. That's brilliant. For me, it's Hugh Carthy.
And different generations of riders bring different styles of racing as well, don't they, Simon? Looking at the younger riders in this Giro d'Italia, and looking at Carapaz, he's still not that old himself. I think he's 26. He's only just not qualifying for the Young Riders competition. What does it say about the future of cycling for the next generation, then, the style of riding and racing that we're seeing here?
well, I think it's pretty exciting, isn't it, really? I mean, they'll obviously have a few years to learn those wily tricks if Brad's right and Nibali's, you know, like sandbagging there. But I think it's just great seeing riders' confidence build, isn't it? You know, like I was hearing an interview with Hugh this morning, and saying that, you know, he hasn't changed anything with his diet or his training. It's just literally a confidence thing. And so, you know, at the moment he's like following wheels probably predominantly. I guess that's fair to say. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely one to watch, and all of these guys are capable of ripping it up, aren't they, on their day?
Well, will we see sparks? Will we see fireworks? It's been a thrilling start to the stage so far, at least. 85.5 kilometres to go, Sean and Rob. We'll join you in just a second.
Into the Dolomites, halfway along our roller coaster of the day. 2 big climbs done, 3 more to go, and we head into Predazzo. Intermediate sprint time, 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds to be taken by this group of 5. And then we start climbing once more. The Passo Rolle, very long climb, the 20-odd kilometres climbing. Then it's an even longer descent, 40 k's descending, before we take on Croce d'Aune. Richard Carapaz, a date with destiny. A lot of responsibility on his shoulders. Wasn't expected to be in this position before the race. Just his 3rd year at the World Tour level. 26 now. Only won a professional stage race for the first time in his career 13 months ago, and that was a 3-day Vuelta a Asturias. Only 1 or 2 World Tour teams were in that race. Again, he won it this year once more. It was seen as nothing else really, apart from a warm-up for the Giro d'Italia. He could jump from doing that to taking a 3-week stage race. And again, there are riders who have been trying for years, who have won Paris-Nice, Suisse, all these other very, very prestigious races, but haven't managed to do it over 3 weeks. Could Carapaz do it? Nobody from Ecuador has ever done it. Of course, I know that there's quite a bit of the Colombian press that think that this will be maybe a semi-Colombian victory if Carapaz pulls it off. Of course, he cut his teeth in racing there. He's from very close to the border with Colombia, so it's no stranger to him, that territory. Carapaz from the province of Carchi in Ecuador. This is what happened at that intermediate sprint. Photo finish. Looks as though the seconds might have well just gone to Dunbar. Not that they're of any use to him at 37 minutes 26 seconds back. We heard the opinions early in the studio of everybody waiting and watching on with intrigue to this, and you can ask them your own questions for after this stage. The breakaway, as it has done every day throughout this Giro d'Italia, will follow on Eurosport, the home of cycling, and online. Hashtag any of your tweets the breakaway, or we'll try our best to get to them after today's stage. Second group on the road at 1 minute and 22 is Capecchi, Ciccone and Madua. Ciccone in the centre. And the De Koning Quick-Step team car making sure that each and every one of those riders in that group are fed and watered. The Shark on dry land so far. What can he produce here? Now or never for a 3rd title. He's 34 now, Sean. He has a decent opportunity to do something, even though it does need something special. You never know, he might not find himself in this position again.
Well, it's very possible that he'll not be in a position, because in a 3-week tour, so much can happen, and we've seen in this Giro, you know, the general classification, man, you can be in real good shape. You have to get through the first week. It's like a Grand National. There's so many hurdles to get over, and crashes, and we see Tom Dumoulin in the early part of the race. So, you know, yeah, and that can happen to anybody in a 3-week tour. So, yeah, to get to the point where you have to fight for the win, you know, it's not evident that you reach that point in a race. So he's in the position now, in a perfect position. The time trial went well. Will he be capable of doing it today? You know, we've seen the first signs that he cracked a bit, or yeah, did he crack really? Was he just, you know, keeping just in a tempo, not to go too hard on that earlier climb? I doubt it very much, but yeah, you never know with these guys. They're prepared to risk a lot, and you know, you can recover also from not so good maybe in an earlier mountain, and in the beginning of the day you can come better on the end. But again, you know, we're back into a situation now where Movistar are very much in control again, and they're going to have to try and repeat once again. But it was Lopez, the Astana man, who did it all on the climbs. He really blew it apart when he attacked on the Passo Magnon. So will we see on the Passo Rolle the same situation? I reckon yes, and you know, that's 60 kilometres on the finish. It's another long climb, not as steep, but again, you know, it's all about how hard and how fast you race up it. And it's within the distance, 60k. I think there's a lot of riders saying, well, I can do that. And there's a long descent as well, as you mentioned, Rob, and then we have the final. So it could be the place where we should see more action. With this breakaway out in front, and Astana, you know, doing the job again, putting the man in the breakaway for they will be hoped for later in the day for their leader, Miguel Angel Lopez.
4% average gradient from start to finish, but let's not forget it, it's over 20 k's long. Maximum gradient of 10%. All in all, it should be faster, higher pace, easier climb, but what's left? And what's left in the legs? As I said yesterday, this mountain used for the first time in 1937 in the Giro d'Italia. It was the first ever Dolomite climb to be used. We climbed it from the other side yesterday, albeit not quite to the top. Esteban Chavez was the victor there. And thankfully it's open. There we go. Green sign on the Passo Croce. Follows the valley for a while. Movistar with riders back. 4 riders to protect Carapaz, 3 plus the 2 leaders. If you count Lando as somebody who's protected. He should still be. I think he showed in that little exchange of fire we had at the bottom of our little rise to the feed zone there, that he's an important tactical pawn to play. They had to go after him in the end. Movistar being made to ride here, however. Beautiful, that's where we're heading. Domenico Pozzovivo at the back. And Nathan Brown was another name there for EF Education first. Now we started the climb again. It's difficult to see this group getting any bigger. It's going to be whittled down bit by bit again as the Maglia Rosa has his lunch. Oh. So who's giving it to the man who's supposed to be supporting him? Not the other way around. Well, this race all about pink, but look at that. That's a contrast of colours for sore eyes. Pale di San Martino. They're the rocks we were looking at yesterday when we were in San Martino di Castrozza. On the other side, bits of rock that change colour as the evening goes by. So at the front of the race with 79 kilometres to go, Pello Bilbao, Mikel Nieve, Eddie Dunbar, Emmanuel Gebrselassie, and Tanel Kangut, who was at the front of the race on the day Vincenzo Nibali last turned a deficit around. That was on the way to Sant'Anna di Vinadio in 2016. Three years older though now, with a weaker team and with a real strong opponent in the shape of Movistar. Mitchell and Scott, who were their opponents then, did not quite have the team in the mountains that they have today. Esteban Chavez would lose out. Meant to be heartbreak. His parents were there on the day as Nibali took the jersey off him rather cruelly at the top. They thought they were coming over to celebrate a Maglia Rosa win. As we look at Eros Capecchi. Chavez's parents there yesterday. We saw him at the finish line, didn't we, as he won for the first time in a year. Capecchi being distanced, however. Remember, he is already a Giro d'Italia stage winner early on in his career. Conchi still in this group for Bauke Mollema, who's been, again, pretty solid today. He was one of the last guys to be dropped, as Miguel Angel Lopez showed, at least tried to show he was the strongest. Caruso there for Nibali. There's Rafael Majka. And we wait for our next bit of action. Oh dear, he did come off. And there's the evidence. We're asking ourselves the question, we didn't see the incident. Ilno Zakarin, and is descending yet again.
Well, we did see that on the corner. A little bit of gravel there, and he was at, after getting out of the corner, looked like he got to the side of the road where he got out of danger and to get back on his bike. And yeah, we're asking ourselves the question, did he just run out of road and maybe panic a bit, or did he go on the ground? And we can see the evidence there, he's definitely been down. As you can see, the three chasers here having difficulty getting across to the five-man lead. There's still a minute there, and you can see there that the rest of the peloton of the main favourites are just a bit further down the valley here, and yeah, the three men chasing are struggling. We could see Capecchi as well there, a little bit of difficulty at a point, but he's back in there. Nobody is pulling out much of an advantage here. 2:17, that's nothing, because when we get on to the next climb, well, if there's attacks back there out of the group of favourites, this advantage will come down rapidly.
It's not enough, you would think, just yet for anybody to get excited in this group about taking a stage win. 2 minutes and 16 seconds. 1:06 to this group. And a further minute and 10 back to the peloton. Capecchi's back. Ciccone, how much gas is left? Oh, we know that these two are climbing well. Carapaz in the pink, Landa in the blue. Cataldo behind. What do you make of those comments and the idea that Vincenzo Nibali was perhaps bluffing a little bit and playing it smart towards the top of the climb there?
I don't think so. At that point, when you see the men that were going away from him, you'd expect that he would react, and it looked to me that he was making an effort but just didn't have it, and decided to knock it off a little bit, because at the point where the Astana rider attacked Lopez, there was still quite a bit to the summit, and if you try and cling on there and stay with him, well, then you go into the red and you can totally explode, and yeah, that's when you can really lose a lot of time. So keep on working at it, and yeah, he probably felt, and he could feel that Roglic was very close to him as well, and he know that he's a climber that can just go at a strong pace but not that explosive one. So you just think of all of those things, and then you work your tactic to that, and I think that's what Nibali was doing, and just that little bit in a difficulty at a point, because it was a very steep gradient, and we did see before they were all pretty much put on the limit by Astana. They were pushed on big time, and then when Lopez hit him, everybody was working hard at that point. So I think yes, it was just a little bit too difficult for him, but that doesn't say later, with these climbs coming up, the gradient not as much, that he won't try something a bit later on. He never gives up. He will keep on fighting, and today is the day. The press, the Italians have talked a lot about him. He'll do something, so he has to try something at some point, and if he have anything left, if any fire in his belly at all, he's going to give it something and try something later on in this stage.
Again, he's been there twice before, hasn't he? He's a two-time winner of the Giro d'Italia. It's all or nothing, they said on the headline in the Gazzetta dello Sport today. Today or never. 16 kilometres still to the top here. Oh, look behind. You think about these gradients, they will see each other, all the groups on the road. Pretty easy for now, relatively easy compared to what we've had and what we will have. Interesting story about the gradients on the final climb today, the Croce d'Aune. Of course, up and down, tricky gradients, very uneven. It's only ever been used in the Giro d'Italia twice. That was in 1964 when Franco Balmagnon led over the top, and in 2009 when Belletti, the sprinter, was obviously in the breakaway and took the summit there. There's never been a finish there, but it's a climb that was used in 1927 in the Gran Premio della Vittoria, celebrating, it was a race that was organised to celebrate the victory at the end of World War I. Tullio Campagnolo, remember him? Of course, his name lives on as the great inventor of a huge and vital, important component in the bikes. Of course, Campagnolo group sets and gears. Well, he was leading, and he was on the Croce d'Aune. But of course, in those days, to change gear, you had to stop, unscrew the wheel, change it around, and clip it back on again. And that's where he had the first idea and the first design in his head appear to him, a eureka moment, really, of the quick release. We now see it very, very easy, don't we? You take a wheel off, you unclip it, and you see these mechanical changes. But it's an amazing thought to see that all the way back in 1927, nearly 100 years ago, riders with very different equipment were taking on these very roads. And if you think they're hard now, they must have been hellish then.
First of all, the material they had was a ton weight compared to what they have now, and yeah, the roads unsurfaced, all of that. It was you know, amazing back in those times when they had to do the big tours, and the distance of the stages as well. When you look back in history, you know, they were doing 200 and 300 kilometers in the day, and they were amazing men. And yeah, things have, you know, changed so much. But you know, talking about Campagnolo, anybody got into biking, and certainly for myself, you know, in the 70s, beginning of the 70s, Campagnolo was something you dreamed about. Having a Campagnolo group set, that was, you know, the thing to have, because, you know, there was other ones as well. There was Simplex and Strong Light, but now, of course, we have so many group sets. There's many of them out there, but definitely in the early 70s, Campagnolo was the one that everybody was sparing up to get.
Big day for Movistar, because they're riding Campagnolo group sets, actually.
Yes, well,
Hector Carretero has just been dropped, by the way.
yes.
What's the goal here for Movistar, Sean?
Well, I think it's just keep control here, just use our men in the right way, not to you know, push on too much. And they don't have to, you know, with what's happening out front here in the race, there's no concern at all. They're going to try and get as far into this climb as they can here with the helpers, the Mystiques, and onto the attacks come. And so if you keep a good strong pace, yeah, it calm things down a bit. But will it calm it enough that nobody will try in the attack here at this point in the race? You would expect this is, you know, this is the launching pad, because the summit of this one's 60k out. They have to try and do something, because otherwise it's going to be too late to, you know, get enough an advantage for anybody to gain anything in the overall standings. The men like Nibali and the rest who want to put Movistar on the difficulty.
1 minute 54 is what Nibali has to make up to the Maglia Rosa. We're on the Passo Croce. We're into the final 75 kilometres on first of two decision days in the Giro d'Italia. Time trial tomorrow, but for it to have any sort of relevance at the top of the GC, the gaps need to be smaller. Vincenzo Nibali needs to make time on Richard Carapaz. There's 1 minute and 54 seconds of a difference there. Roglic will feel good about pulling 22 seconds back on Nibali, but he wants more. He'll also be wary of Mikel Landa behind him, who himself needs time on Roglic. Everybody looking at each other. It's been a good day so far for Richard Carapaz in the Maglia Rosa. No signs of any crack. In fact, he, Landa, and their opponent in the white jersey, Lopez, have looked the strongest in the climb. 2:42 back to this group. With Carretero gone, it's Pedrero on the front. Again, they will continue to do this as long as possible. That's where we're heading. In and around the Parco Naturale Panaveggio. Lots of signs of the destruction, the awful weather in the winter. But the natural beauty remains. Lago di Panaveggio, held up by that dam you can see. And we are waiting. Sean, it's difficult to see too much happening here until Movistar run out of more men, maybe. Oh, now what's going to happen? Is Pedrero maybe telling those in the car that he might be nearly done? We'll have to see. But whilst Movistar have the men, it's difficult to see too much happening, isn't it?
Well, I think it's early yet because this climb is a long one, and it's probably a bit further into the climb that we might see some of the teams trying to do something. But you need teammates to do it here, and you know, looking at Astana, they have 2 riders in there. Cataldo is here, and you can see another rider is Hert, who is also back in there. So they will try and use them. If Lopez is going to try something on this one again, you know, you need the strong teammates to really ride a number of kilometres and put everybody in difficulty, and then attack over the top when they are finished. So it's going to be Movistar for a while here, depending on how much energy the guys have left in the front, and they will try and just keep on setting this pace and hoping that the attacks will come later, and that way again, you know, their men might not lose too much, and they might be able to get back in on the long descent. So you know, there's different tactics there, different teams, but Nibali's team, it'll be interesting to see what he does as well. Will he put some of his riders at the front to drive it on and really, you know, just stretch this stretch out the group and really put a lot of riders in difficulty and then try the attack? And that depends on how Nibali is feeling, of course. If he's feeling good, well then he might try something, but if he's not on a great day, well then it's always difficult because your team will drive on but you're not able to attack, and that's not a good thing when you do that, because you leave down your team a bit, your teammates, and the other riders will see it as well. You know, if the team does that work, prepare the terrain for you, and then you're not able to do it. So it's going to be one of these ones where we will see who's feeling the best. It looked like Lopez is the most danger one to try something. Yesterday again, you know, not a difficult finish, but he tried in the end, and he did gain something on a terrain which wasn't his perfect terrain, because the gradient wasn't great. So I think it looks like it could be Astana should try something later up this time.
Not far off contact between the 2 groups. We know that Capecchi had been dropped from this group, but with 5 riders up the road, Ciccone and Madouas are just 13 seconds away from making contact. This is one of the easier sections of the climb. Just see nice wider roads, good surface, much less of a gradient. Sort of a central section where it eases out a bit. Once you're into the final 7 or 8 kilometres, that kicks up once more. Top of this climb at 61 kilometres to go. So in 3 kilometres or so is when it starts to get harder again. To the maximum gradient with around 6k's to go. Just under, in fact, and then it kicks up a little more from there. Many more irregular and steeper gradients on the final 2 climbs. Croce d'Aune before we briefly descend and then climb to Monte Avena. Sort of climbs where the rhythm's broken. Richard Carapaz is not broken yet at the top here. This is how we stand midway through stage 20. 83 hours, 52 minutes, 22 seconds of racing since the start in Bologna. Richard Carapaz a minute 54 quicker than Nibali, 2:16 ahead of Roglic, 3:03 in front of Landa. And then look at that, Mollema in 5th, Lopez in 6th. Lopez will be looking at the top 5. He needs something special if he's to get on the podium, though. He needs at least 3 minutes, and then, of course, you'd imagine that Roglic would take time tomorrow. What do you at home think's going to happen? You can let us know. Remember, hashtag the breakaway for all your questions after today's stage. And if you've any questions for Sean sitting next to me, any comments to make, any predictions at Rob Hatch TV as we enter the final crucial stage of the mountain climbing at this Giro d'Italia. Contact at the front. 2 minutes and 49 in front of the pink jersey. Italy shows itself off, and we wait for the racing to do the same. So happy that the sunshine is out for these stages and we can admire the beauty there. I think the riders will be as well. They'll have been sick of the bad weather. So group of 5 becomes 7. It's been a bit of a hard chase for Ciccone and Madua, but they've given themselves all a chance. Of course, you never know what's going to happen behind. I think you'd still say with a gap of less than 3 minutes, I think the end of the stage would be disappointing, wouldn't it, if the victory came from this lot?
Well, at the moment, just under 3 minutes, but will that be allowed to go out, or will it be a case where it will come down rapidly if they start racing here further up this climb? That is the question, and that is the answer, I suppose. If the guys here, what have we got, 7 riders now in the front, if they're allowed to pull that advantage out a lot, and they need to pull it out, you know, a number of minutes more. The two have come across, Ciccone and Maduas. They have done a real strong ride. It didn't look like they were going to make it there, and we could see Capecci was in difficulty. So with the two, I was concerned that they were in no man's land, but they have made the effort here, and it's the best place to be, because when you're in a group of 7 riders, well then, you know, you're right there, and you get a little bit more recovery time here when you come off the front after doing your turn up there. They're just going to keep on working away at it, and they'll be hoping. They hope that everything will be calmed down back in the main peloton, and that they can just slowly edge this advantage out. But yeah, 2:40 at the moment. It needs to go, you know, 3 times that before we can say they have a chance of staying out there.
3 Giro d'Italia stage winners in that group. Bilbao, who did it the other week, alongside Ciccone, who did it at the start of this week. And then the other man in there, of course, Mikel Nieve, who has won several stages of the Giro d'Italia in 3 different editions, in fact. This is the scene at the finish. Croce d'Aune, Monte Avena. Not too much room at all. It's very narrow, it's twisty, turny. I know that the press room isn't up at the top there. All the journalists are forced to sit down the hill. No team buses at the top either. The small podium that they reserve for the very hard-to-reach mountain finishes. As many fans as possible on the shuttle buses that have been running all morning. And if you think the crowds are good there, they'll certainly be good when we get to the mightily famous arena in Verona tomorrow. Antonio Pedrero, all bandaged up, but giving his best. Crashed a couple of times this week, most notably on the descent the other day from the big climb of the Mortirolo. The sun goes in. Bit of a foreboding atmosphere around. Hairpins to come as this climb starts to get more difficult now. We're into the final 7 kilometres of the climb, and this is where the gradient begins to rise up. You can just see that, really, the difference of where they're headed. The road becomes narrower, more twisty. Simon Yates, what does he have? It's been a hot day so far. Look at the salt all over the back of his jersey.
Yes, I was noticing that there some kilometres further back when he was at the back of the group with his teammate. You could see that there were the effort after being made. The shorts all covered in salt, salt stain there, and you know, shaking out the legs a bit, trying to, I suppose, knock the fatigue out of him a bit, and before the fireworks start. He's probably expecting more fireworks here, as we all are, and you know, where will it be on the climb? And you can see here the breakaway, they're just still, you know, rolling through here, nobody wanting to push on at any strong pace at all for the moment, but still growing out 3 minutes. And yeah, when you look at this group, who would be the best one if it does manage to go to the finish? It would be an interesting one, because again, you know, some good climbers, and Mikel Nieve, he's a rider that within the Mitchell and Scott team, when things doesn't go for the leader, remember last year, you know, he was called into action and got a stage win. He's done it many times in the past, where in the end of the race, where his duties is, you know, not to look after a leader, he gets into the breakaways and can take a stage victory. And yeah, he's in a position today. Definitely, you could see there when it was attacking, when the two groups came together, the breakaway group and the pink jersey group, and then it started attacking. He was very active trying to make the breakaway of the day, so I think he was the one who was, yeah, within the team talked for the stage win today.
When his victories arrive, they tend to be very big ones as well. He doesn't win small races, Mikel Nieve. Grand Tour stage is a speciality. He hasn't actually won much outside of Grand Tours. Remember the day in Gardeccia when he took his first Giro win in Euskadi colours. He saved the Giro for Sky a few years ago when they weren't going well. He won the big up and down day that was up in the Julian Alps. He won last year in Cervinia. That was stage 20 as well. It's today to be the day on what, in terms of climbing, is the Queen stage of this Giro d'Italia. 5,500 metres. And that can be an oft-used and too often used phrase, actually, to term the stages. But today, it really does fit the bill. 5 huge climbs. We've had the Cimacampo. We've had Passo Mangen. This is Passo Rolle, and Capecchi's keeping them within 23 seconds, climbing at his own pace here. The Koenig Quick-Step desperate to get something out of this. 3 teams in the breakaway at the front who don't have anything out of this race as well yet. Dimension Data are represented by Emmanuel Gebrag-Zabir. EF Education first with Tanel Kangat as well. And Team Ineos, Eddie Dunbar, and it's not often that Team Ineos go to a Grand Tour and don't win a stage either. We've already had Cimacoppi today, although it's not the real Cimacoppi of this Giro. That came with the highest point of the race being at Lago Serru, but then, of course, the Gavia was cancelled and Cimacoppi Prize was given out to down the Passo Mangen, the highest remaining summit after Lago Serru, and the fact that Gavia was cancelled. That was taken by Fausto Masnada. There he is, wearing 26, and still in this group. Yunus Zakarin, we know, has crashed today on the descent. The only man that we know went down. Zakarin there in the dark red shorts. He's already got a stage win at this Giro. And we can finish off what's been a good Giro for him if he can maybe break into the top 10. He's 12th now at 10 minutes and 36. Movistar still with Pedrero. Capecchi gaining 20 seconds now. Well, he will know this climb. He's from the north of Italy himself. Still waiting to see if those fireworks are going to go off. Is it going to be that day of days? Nibali with 1:54 to overturn. Roglic with 2:16 to come back. Landa, if there's a problem for Carapaz, then he's got, of course, to make up time on Nibali and Roglic. He's at 3:03 from his teammate at the moment. And also 47 seconds from the podium, although with the time trial tomorrow, you'd feel he'd need more than that on Primož Roglic. Once previously a podium finisher in a Grand Tour. That was in 2015 at the Giro d'Italia when Fabio Aru finished second, his teammate then. And Alberto Contador won his last Giro d'Italia. Movistar still control. They have the Maglia Rosa. It's Pedrero followed by Amador, the Costa Rican. Carapaz, the man from Ecuador, and Landa from the Basque Country in Spain. This is what's happening in the points classification. We don't know the gaps to these guys at the moment. They've got to finish in the time limit, remember, today. Pascal Ackermann on 2:26, Demar 2:13. Look at Damiano Cima. Third place. If there's a disaster for the sprinters, we said that Cima up there in the breakaway had a great day yesterday. Could be a happy birthday to him at the end. Giulio Ciccone, we know, has mathematically secured the climbing prize, but he needs to stay on his bike. He's looking at the moment for a second stage when he's at the front of the race. And in the young jersey competition, Miguel Angel Lopez pulling back another minute or so on Sevakov yesterday and looking pretty good in that. It's his team who've been trying to light up the race so far today. The most aggressive without doubt. So who's going to take the win today? Surely it can't go to the breakaway again. Ciccone, no wonder he's looking tired. Already a stage winner from a breakaway. We've only had one mountain stage at this Giro that hasn't gone to the breakaway. It was when Richard Carapaz took the win. Humayeur the day. Kamel Kanga, Ciccone is on the radio, and we continue to wait. Long waiting game up this climb and tension building. Good job this by Capecchi. Hasn't panicked at all.
No, hasn't panicked at all, and looked like that he was going to be in difficulty when he wasn't able to follow the other two men he was with further down the time. Ciccone from Trek Segafredo and Valentin Moduas from Group AM FDJ, and looked like that he wasn't going to ever get across here, but he's kept on working at it and gets back in here. The interesting one is, I think, if this was riding at a very fast pace in the breakaway, if they were really pushing on, I don't think he would ever manage to get back up here, and that's the reason that he's made it. But still, you know, you have to take your hat off to him, because to keep on, you know, fighting away there when the other two riders rode away from him a number of kilometres down this climb, he didn't, you know, lose the morale at all and just kept on working. Now he's back in here, and it will be interesting to see as we get further up here. 2:55, not growing out at the rate I think they would like it to be, but they're probably playing the game here, you know, just conserving a bit of energy, get over this one and see what they have at the top, and then go on to the long descent and try and get into the final, and then, you know, see the advantage there as we get inside at the final number of kilometres with these two small climbs at the end and the uphill finish, and we can see still Movistar continuing on, but I think one thing is clear, we're not going to see, because 64.6 kilometres to go, we're not going to see the big breakaway from anyone like Chris Froome last year, where he did his extraordinary 80 kilometres out. And you know, the route today we were looking at it, we were wondering, would we see on Passo Magnan, would we see somebody taking it up, or maybe, you know, a group of riders, and we did see the two men from Movistar with the Astana man Lopez going ahead, and we're wondering, you know, was that going to be, but there was always the break out front. But yeah, we were all hoping that we might see somebody trying to repeat that, but it's not going to be the case, because now we're coming into the 64 kilometres to the finish here, and yeah, we're waiting for this, we're waiting for the attack once again from the favourites here, and I think Lopez will try something, because not alone the uphill, but the long descent, he will be concerned about that. So I think he'll attack before the top, just to get ahead of the likes of Nibali, because this is a descent where Nibali, you know, if he makes a fast descent, Lopez, we know he doesn't like that, so he will try and get the advantage before he gets to the top of the climb.
It's a 40-kilometre descent from Passo Croce, straight through the town where we finished yesterday, overlooked by these wonderfully beautiful mountains. Still covered in snow. You said yesterday it's not something that you often get to see in bike racing. The Tour and the Vuelta, the snow has long melted away. There's Dario Cioni in the car, talking for Team Ineos to Eddie Dunbar. He's done just about every job, hasn't he, in his time with the team? He rode, he was the press officer for a while, and now he's a director sportif. He's a man from Italy, Dario Cioni. 2:53 from this group back to the Maglia Rosa. Is it to be a day for Ineos? One of the teams who have not got anything yet out of this race. certainly in strict terms of a win. What they have got is the belief in Pavel Sivakov, I think, for the future. 9th overall. 8 minutes 27 down before today. And he was looking on that climb, he was looking better than a couple of riders who were placed better than him. So if that form continues into the final 2 ascents, and if the race kicks off again, he could be moving up in the GC a bit. There's Ciccone, king of the mountains, with Kanga on his wheel. Still no change from Movistar. Still no change in this group. Everybody hanging on, nobody dropped. Is this another illustration of how tired everybody is, or again is it the distance? We're just too far from the finish.
I think everybody is tired, and you know, it's been this difficult race, and everybody is pretty much suffering. But it doesn't mean we won't see something before the top of this one. If it's just, as I said, maybe just to get onto the descent for Lopez. But when you get this close to the top, the difference is not going to be that great. And riders who are suffering in this group, you know, you just get more confident as they get ever so closer to the summit, because you say, now I'm only, you know, 2 kilometres, I'm only 3 kilometres from the top. I just have to hang on here. Where if you're in the group and you're suffering and a rider attacks 10 kilometres from the top of a climb, well then, you know, mentally it starts to work on you. You say to yourself, I'm ever going to get to the top of this one. I have to be real careful, because if I push a bit too much, I'm going to totally blow up. But when you get within that 2 kilometres to the top of the climb, well then you can really dig deep. You can, you know, go pretty close to into the red, but you're going to get the top pretty quickly.
Gap's grown out to 3 minutes and 49 seconds now. Pushing on a bit here at the front with Ciccone. 2.3 kilometres to go to the top, and no huge movements, but a certain marked increase in pace, I think. Certainly in the front group. Ah, the Basque fans, look at them. Landa Nieve Bilbao. And, well, another message that has nothing to do with bike racing. All written in the Basque language there. And the flag on the road, it's a political proclamation, that one, but support for all the rest of the Basque riders. Slovenian fans on the road, waiting for Primož Roglič. They've got 3 minutes 40 seconds of a wait, as Kanga pushes on here for EF Education first. One of the teams who've had a very good Giro, but have no wins yet either. Going up Passo Rolle here, that has often been used in the race. Passo Rolle, remember 1937, Gino Bartali going out to do exactly what this man wants to do. On the attack and winning the Giro d'Italia. Richard Carapaz in 2019. There's actually an emergency stage finish here back in 1962 as a snowstorm raged elsewhere. Belluno to Moena was supposed to be one of the early full Dolomite stages. They termed it as the ride through the Pale Mountains on the day. Was hit by a snowstorm that stage. It was stage 14 of the 1962 Giro, and they had to move the stage finish to the top of the Passo Rolle. They couldn't carry on anywhere else. Victory on the day going to Vincenzo Meco. Finished 3 minutes 27 ahead of Ercole Baldini and Imerio Massignan. Some of the very big names abandoned that day, and there are those Pale Mountains. No Fabio Aru, but the Sardinian fans are in evidence. They can see the top of Passo Rolle now. Getting up towards that high altitude where the snow appears. Passo Rolle topping out at 1,980 metres, just short of 2,000. And how's the altitude affecting everybody too? In and around that 2,000 metre, that magic 2,000 metre mark, where funny things can start to happen to the body. Nibali has Caruso and Pozzo Vivo. Carapaz still has 3 more men with him. And Simon Yates sits at the back. Masnada on there too. Hugh Carthy for EF Education first. And that is what May's all about, isn't it? We've all talked about what the bad weather's done to this Giro d'Italia. But the sight on your screen now is one of the positive aspects of that. All the snow that's still about. It's everything that much more spectacular and brighter. I know it's a big day of sport wherever you're watching around the world. A lot of people preparing for the Champions League final tonight. We've had tweets from Liverpool fans, from Spurs fans, and we've told you what history does as well. All English Champions League final usually, and certainly the last time, equaled a Spanish Grand Tour winner in each of every Grand Tour. It's a Spanish team in control, but it is a first Ecuadorian victory that we are looking at unless things change. A few of you asking too about Davide Formula. I'm afraid he was one of the first riders to be dropped early today. Rafael Majka looking better for him, and Formula as it stands would be slipping outside the top 10 quite dramatically. That's terrain to gain for Hugh Carthy and the rest, and Ilno Zakarin more immediately. He's 12th. 12th at 10:36. Carthy in that group 13th at 14:51. Giulio Ciccone. He's taken command of this King of the Mountains competition ever since the very first day of the competition. The time trial in Bologna. Remember, he rode a road bike. He paced himself easily in a warm-up to the bottom of the climb, and then bang, he went full gas to the top. Took the first points, and barring one single day where he passed it to his teammate Gianluca Brambilla, Giulio Ciccone has worn the King of the Mountains jersey every single day of this Giro d'Italia. He went out and attacked plenty earlier on. It was Fausto Masnada who took Cima Coppi today, though. He's 2 minutes 23 ahead of the Maglia Rosa group here, which suggests there's been a bit of an acceleration behind. Of course, we were getting gaps of 3:40 at one stage. Ciccone, Bilbao, Dunbar, Madua, Kangat there too. 2:22 is the gap. And just 200 metres to the top now. Fans from all over the world on the top of the Passo Croce in all of its splendour. Look at that backdrop and the perfect terrain on which to watch one of the most spectacular sporting events in the world. Another climb ticked off, another job done. For now, though, no attacks from behind. If something does come, it's going to come very, very late. Are you surprised by that, Sean?
Yes, I was expecting that Astana would try something with the two riders they have left here, and they always have the man out in front, Pello Bilbao here. But it doesn't seem to be going to happen unless it's a very, very late one. And you could see there as well a lot of the time they seem to be getting a little bit of a wind assist, or they seem to be pushing them along. So yeah, that's going to maybe if there are any thoughts about it, put it out of their minds. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I thought that they would have a go here, but in the final, maybe kilometre, 2 kilometres, because yeah, 2.5 minutes are a bit further down the road, but it's getting very late to for the attack to have any sufficiency on the overall standing. Men, I don't think it will really break up the group that much, and everybody should be able to come back together on the descent once again.
Giulio Ciccone has now won more mountain passes than Eddy Merckx at the Giro d'Italia. And the way he's riding, he's going to close in on the record won by Gino Bartoli. That was 40-odd. He's well into the mid-20s now. And this is the scene behind. And again, not even a whiff of an attack, is there? No hint of one whatsoever. We've got an enhanced, what looks like Dutch corner, but I think that's the Polish CCC fans again. None of their riders to cheer on, though. Polish flag up to the right-hand side. There's a Scottish Saltire that's been hanging around at the top of the passes for the last few days. That's good to see. Brian Smith will be happy. And with 60 kilometres to go, Nothing doing on the Passo Croce. 20 more kilometres of climbing in the legs. Nobody having what it takes to have a go. And everything is going to be on the final climb. It's divided into two categorised climbs up the Croce d'Aune. The first to that summit, and then there's a brief descent, and then they go up again to Monte Avena. Now it's a 40-kilometre long descent. Movistar left with good numbers. You can only imagine that everybody's just on their last legs here.
Well, I think that's part of it, and you have to train as well. Maybe not suitable to really push anybody under pressure, but still, if you have teammates there and you really push on at a very strong pace, you could cause problems for some of the riders. But yeah, the teammates again, are they capable of doing it? Because some of the teammates have been out there on the break in the earlier part of the day, and if they're tired as well, it seems like that it's not going to happen here. It's going to be all together for the descent.
Into the final 60 kilometres then of the day with most climbing on the Giro d'Italia. 5,500 metres to climb at the start of the day. More than half of that is done now. 2 more classified climbs to go. Davide Formolo looking like he's been the biggest casualty so far in the top 10. And the breakaway with 2.5 minutes. You still feel they will need more as they start to take on a very long descent. You saw people reaching for newspapers and things like that. If you can't get a gilet here, such a long descent, and with such a temperature difference from bottom to top, it's very important to be protected and warm. Everything going to be decided on the finale, it seems, after those early attacks came to nothing. Make sure you don't go away now. The Giro d'Italia is about to be played out. Well, 4 kilometres down the 40-kilometre descent. Coming down from Passo Croce. And we'll go through San Martino di Castrozza, where the riders finished yesterday, when we get further down. This descent not quite as technical as the one we had from Passo Langhen. A couple of hairpins to take on early on. As it stands, though, nobody risking anything, nobody taking on anything. It's Movistar, as they led them up, will lead them down. 2 minutes and 41, and I guess, Sean, we're carrying on playing the waiting game now until the final climb.
Well, it's all going to be down to the final 2 little climbs we have, and yeah, they're short, but at the end of a day, the end of a 3-week race, they can cause problems as well. They kick up for a number of kilometres, but there's a lot of rest periods in it. But still, it goes up to 16% in Croce d'Aune, and then the final one up to the finish, Monte Avena, which is a bit steeper again. It goes up to 11% in the final 6 kilometres. It is a difficult one, and yeah, if they start really going at it, full on earlier on the climb, well, then you could see quite a big gap. If a rider really suffers in the end, he cracks a bit, a number of kilometres out, he could lose a lot of time. So there is the train to do that, but yeah, you'd have to be a real explosive attack, and who's capable of doing that in this group of favourites? I suppose Lopez is the one. He's the pure climber. He's going to try something. The other riders like Nibali and Ojlik, I think, yeah, they will probably just rather a climb which wouldn't be a steep gradient. So yeah, it's going to be nervous times for everybody. It's, definitely there's something going to happen in the end. They will riders try, and yeah, will they be successful taking time? It's just possible.
It's the last chance for most people today. We know that Roglic, for example, if he were to get close enough, would be able to do something in the time trial tomorrow. Richard Carapaz, we know, not quite as strong as Roglic maybe, or even Nibali in the time trial, but Nibali at 1:54 is not going to be a danger at this rate. Roglic at 2:16, even with his capabilities, it's a lot of time to take back tomorrow. You probably need to get within a minute and a half even to make the nerves jangle.
Yes, I think if he gets to a minute and a half, he would be in a position where a possibility to do it. But yeah, you never know at the end of a race, how good is he? We've seen already today he's suffering a bit. He might be as performant in the time trial. as he has been all year in the races that he has won, because he has been impressive. Carapaz, you know, he hasn't shown any signs of cracking, but I see really, you know, digging in there big time. And today, you know, how much pressure was he under? He might pay for all of those days which he's really been, you know, pushing himself to the limit on a lot of the climbs. And the time trial, you know, will he not be as good as he normally can be? And you know, normally he's at right quite a good time trial. He's done already in this Giro. So there's so many things, but I think, yes, Roglic would like to take back some time, and then he would have a better chance of having a go for the overall, because where he sits at the moment, you know, he's a bit too far off, I think, to get back that time in the time frame.
The talk is of a twisty, technical short descent from Croce d'Aune before the final climb to Monte Avena begins. So that's also something to watch. Very, very steep as well, we're told. Gap from the breakaway to the Maglia Rosa group is now at 2:45. Changeable gradients on both climbs. That again changes. Suits different climbers in different ways, doesn't it? We know that people like Roglic, for example, like more of a steady gradient. This is where we finished yesterday, San Martino di Castrozza, where Esteban Chavez was victorious. And from here on in, the riders will know the descent will be very recent. It's what they climbed yesterday. Andre Amador, Costa Rican, who is another of those top descenders in the peloton over the River Marmor. And still decked out in pink from yesterday. The whole weekend of action in San Martino di Castrozza. That as we now approach the final 50 kilometers of the race. We had that finish 10 years ago, won by Di Luca, finish yesterday that was taken by Chavez. Only 47 seconds, or 43 seconds, sorry, that were taken back by Miguel Angel Lopez. Got myself a little better if I have better handwriting. My 3s and my 7s obviously look too alike. But 43 seconds for him. We're looking to take more back today. And he needs at least 30 seconds if he's to get in the top 5. Malcolm Mollema ahead of him. At the bottom of this climb, we're into the province of Belluno. And then up to Croce d'Aune. That tops out with 11 kilometers to go. Then it's a descent, and the final climb, 7 kilometers long. It's very steep. Changes in gradient all the way as well. Only the final 150 meters are flat.
Yes, well, it is a difficult final, and we have that descent, of course. But yeah, our next climb, it goes up for a long time. It's over 10 kilometers. You know, you go up a bit in the valley, then there's a little bit of a rest time, but it's a difficult one. And you know, the 2 final climbs, we could see that it would be one which would cause problems for some of the men in the peloton here of the big favourites. But in the meantime, out front, 2:49. This gap is not growing out. I was expecting to grow out a bit more, considering it's Movistar who are just continuing to tap away on the front of the group of favourites. But 2:50 at the moment. It'll be interesting to see what can they get as we get into the final 35 kilometers of this. And if they have that 3 minutes, so who knows, there could be some of the riders here that can maybe put up a good one and go all the way.
We watch with intrigue. So far, those sparklers and Catherine wheels haven't yet turned into the big fireworks. Movistar have controlled this wonderfully well, and that's been sort of their imprint, certainly on this final week of the Giro. They've been in control, never looked out of control. So strong. They're going to have a similarly strong team for the Tour de France to support Nairo Quintana as well. Some very big names going there. Strength is what Vincenzo Nibali's team has been lacking at times. Certainly in numbers. He's had a couple of really strong riders with him in Caruso and Pozzovivo. But they have more experience than anybody else. More GD between them than any other team. inside 50 kilometres. Look at that in the background. What a day. Let's hope the racing at the end matches it. All the messages that were written out for the riders yesterday remain on the road. And further back in the group, we wonder as well where the sprinters are, what sort of time gaps we have. Everybody will survive till tomorrow, but you could just see the way that Amador's stretching out there. There's no panic, there's no hurry here. Everybody's waiting. From the front of the race, Eros Capecchi, just down the road from San Pellegrino Terme, where he won that Giro stage in 2011. And Pello Bilbao up the road again. Three kilometres on the road between the groups then. Travelling about 60k an hour, if that's 3 minutes of a gap. Again, nothing changes here. Ciccone at the front of the race. And with him, that Dimension Data rider, Manuel Gebrselassie. His second Grand Tour. He rode a good Vuelta last year. He was in the top 10 one day, 37th on GC, and he's been one of the few shining lights so far, the former African Continental Road champion. Champion at just 20 years of age, the man from Addis Ababa of his nation. He's now 24 and turning into a solid rider. Only his second full year as a professional. We're off for a quick break. 45k's to go. We wait for that big action. The riders meander their way down quickly from the Passo Croce. Almost halfway through the descent, 20k's to go is when we'll start climbing again. And it will be the definitive decision, the selection of this Giro d'Italia. In the pink jersey, and so far looking untroubled, is Richard Carapaz, 26 years of age from Ecuador. Vincenzo Nibali at 1 minute and 54 behind him, lies second, looking for an historic third title in the Giro d'Italia. He joined some great names on 3 wins if he could do it, and some of the legendary names in the sport in his nation. Roglic looking to make history for Slovenia as well. He's at 2:16, hoping to finish on the podium of a Grand Tour for the first time. 20 kilometres bob on, as you can see, until the climb to Croce d'Aune. After that, it's Monte Avena to finish. Steep gradients, up and down, and a technical descent in the middle. Sun is shining, the scenery is beautiful, and it's all set for a very, very big finale. We've already been over Cimacampo, Passo Mangan, Passo Croce. We saw a lot of action on the Passo Mangan. Before the Passo Croce, this group went away. Bilbao, Canget, Nieve, Capecchi, Madua, Gebrselassie, Dunbar and Ciccone, 8 riders up the road. And Capecchi here at the back had to try the hardest to get back on. And Ciccone, we know, already a stage winner in this Giro. Capecchi, a previous stage winner. Dunbar's never taken anything before. It's his Grand Tour debut, but he has shone. A word for your compatriot, because whether he pulls it off or not today, I tell you what, he's been active and we've seen him a lot.
Well, it's great to see him up here in this breakaway today, at the end of a 3-week tour, because we know Eddie Dunbar, he hasn't had a lot of stage racing in the last number of years. You know, he raced in the States for 2 years there. He didn't get a lot of these stage races. last year with Aqua Blue. They did not get the invitations to races that they were expecting. So, to be up here at the end of a 3-week tour, that is very promising for Dunbar, because going forward, I think he will go away from this race, and he will be, stamina-wise, he will build a lot here, and that's something you have to wait and see with a new professional. When he goes into the longer races, the 3-week ones, how will he perform in the 3rd week? You have to wait and see, and he has performed really well here in the breakaway today, and he's been in the breakaway other days as well. Yesterday we did see he finished very much up at the overall contenders in the final, so finishing strong, and I think for the future there's a possibility here in the big tours for him, and a little bit of improvement maybe in his time trialling, but that's something he can work on as well. But
and he's in the right team for that as well.
He's in the perfect team for that, and it's nice to see he's another one of the young guys coming through, like we talked about Hugh Carty. Nice to see those guys breaking through, and I think they're the ones in the number of years we'll be talking about in the big 3-week tours.
Nice to have some home riders for us to follow. We're following the entire peloton chasing on behind this breakaway. We look at Valentin Madouas, but who will be looking at the finish line? Who's going to be in the pink jersey? Let's get our expert's opinion. It's back briefly to the studio. Take it away, Orla.
Rob, thank you very much indeed. Well, there have been plenty of questions today and over the last couple of days as to a perceived lack of attacks today, certainly after the initial flurry. Bradley, you were making a really good point just before we came on our share.
Well, we kind of sat here now thinking, why is it just... we had that flurry of attacks, and we had nothing really since. We've just seen them in one line, and, the people may ask the question, well, why don't they continue? Why don't they continue attacking them? And, once the attacks are going, there's kind of disorganisation. It's difficult to organise a team to start riding, so because people get everywhere. And that disorganisation came because of where it's split on the climb. So your leaders, Landa and Carapaz, are there, of course. They're always there once the road goes uphill. But the support guys who've been riding before and covering moves are kind of recovering from those efforts earlier on and kind of a bit back. So once the attacks have just sort of nullified for a little bit, just for 5 minutes, it just allows time for the teammates who are chasing from behind to come back. And all they're thinking, as soon as they get back, is get straight to the front and start riding. And
this is Movistar.
This is Movistar. So they'll form groups of 2. So if there's 2 of them, we get together, because then we look stronger as a 2. They don't just put one there and one on the other side of the road. They'll get 2 of them, and all their job is to get straight to the front of the road. If it's still attacking, straight to the front of the peloton, and take control of the race. So people will be attacking. They'll take the speed to a pace where people will be attacking, but it's not really going anywhere. And if they cover that for long enough, people will start to give up eventually. And Movistar finally got control of that group, and that's what's happened now. So they've ridden, they formed a little group. Landa and Carapaz then come up and join those guys. So we've got 4 there now, and we look like we've got strength, because most of the guys in this, there's 1s and 2s. Some guys, like Roglic, is on his own. Now, had Roglic had the pink jersey, he would have been in a situation like this with no teammates. Everyone knows that, and they're going to attack him left, right, teammate after teammate after teammate, because he can't physically chase everything down, and he'll blow, and then that's where they can take the race. So basically, how this has happened is Movistar have been the strongest team controlling this race since they took that jersey, as well as having the strongest individual riders, Carapaz and Landa, and that's it.
And Brian, this is what we see year in, year out these days at the Tour de France with Team Sky, as they were. Movistar essentially just doing that, are they? But sometimes in fewer numbers, so it's maybe not quite as obvious.
We don't often see it. When the support riders get dropped, we could see that when we came down into the valley, Landa was covering attacks, Carapaz was there. All they were doing was just trying to stop the race so that the riders came up, as Bradley said, from behind. But it comes down to the psychological thing as well. When you've got a whole team at the front and they'll be talking to each other, 1, 2, maybe 3 of them might not be feeling that good, but you stay there. I rode on the front for my team in the past, and it got to the end of the stage that I was getting, really tired. And Raul Alcala said, stay at the front, stay at the front. And I didn't know what he was meaning, because I'd been riding all stage. These guys were coming up late on and putting the tempo up. And I said, can we not just keep it steady? They're not a danger. And he said, no, we lift the tempo, we show strength. And he even gave me a kind of few shoves back into the line to make sure. So I rode a 200-kilometre stage, riding it at the front of the race. More of my teammates came up towards the end. And then at the finish, I was absolutely goosed. But it's all a psychological show of strength, because when you look up and you're suffering a bit, and you look and see that team of 4 or 5 at the front, you think, they're so strong, but they might be struggling as much as you are. But they have got a job to do. They've got that pink jersey, and that's what makes a huge difference.
Simon, we always say that a Grand Tour is won by the best rider, and as Bradley said before, the GC doesn't lie. Is that only true then if they have the best team around them? A team cannot win the general classification necessarily, but they can lose it possibly.
Well, they can definitely lose it. Yeah, that's absolutely true. You could be the strongest rider in the race, and if you don't have the backup, then as Brad says, you know, you're gonna come under fire. You know, there are occasional situations where you might make alliances, or you'll benefit from another team that, you know, they might have a rider in 3rd overall, and they're like, well, this is great for us. This is as good as a victory, so we're going to ride. And so you do get those instances where, you know, someone will absolutely benefit. But no, that's, you know, as a rider, I guess when you're that high profile, those are part of the decisions you make about what teams you go to, as to, you know, whether or not the team that's asking for your signature are going to be able to provide the backup. Maybe the salary that you're asking for is too inflated, and therefore, you know, you're not going to get teammates of the calibre that you need. So I guess as a GC rider, you know, those are the important questions that you have to ask yourself, you know, even before the race starts.
And on that note then, Bradley, if we look back to stage 14, for example, and the start of this race on a GC level was being fought out by Nibali and by Roglic, and they were eyeing each other. Nibali constantly looking to what Roglic was doing. Stage 14, Carapaz went up the road. He took pink, he took the stage. Can you ever then just ride your own race or your team's own race, or do you always have to choose the men to mark and just take the chance that that's the right one?
Yeah, I just think, I think the world of cycling, and we all got carried away maybe with Primoz and how good a season he'd had, and how dominant he'd been, how dominant and say effortless, but how easy he won the prologue over such a short distance. And we all said, you know, it was kind of, you know, including us, that, you know, it's his race, but is he going to crack at some point? When's this form going to suddenly stop? And I think, you know, it was, who would have thought Carapaz before? I know Brian was kind of tipping him for certainly a stage win early on in the race. We've talked about Landa. I don't think Nibali would have sat 3 weeks ago thinking, I'm going to watch this guy. You know, all the attention was on Landa. And
Although he was 4th last year, nobody's
yeah,
looking at
but
him.
it's still, you know, you do, particularly with the time trials, there's an obsession with time trials, isn't there? And Primoz, you know, he's dominating time trials at the moment. We saw last year, you know, that this whole thing with Simon Yates and getting much time as possible for Tom Dumoulin in the time trial. You know, you can't win a Grand Tour without a team. You're nothing without a strong team. You can be the strongest individual rider, but people say to you, no, I don't. You win the race, but you've got 8 teammates that help you win the race. How does that work? And it's what we've just been speaking about. It's that really. And when those breaks are attacking and people are trying to get away from the peloton, and you're waiting for those support riders to come back to the peloton, because when they get dropped, having done all chasing and trying to cover moves early on in the stage, they may go out the back of what is that front group, but they never give up. They never think, right, that's my job for the day. They continue to chase, continue to chase, continue to chase, and at some point when this slows down, they come back. And the team cars will be saying, such and such is coming back now, such and such, so it's all hands on deck in the front, even the leaders, so they take the role of the guys who've been dropped. So Landa will be covering moves, the pink jersey will be covering moves. So you don't think, well, I'm in pink, I'm just going to sit here. It's like, I know my team are coming, and it's like that. It's having that confidence. You're being told, and I know the guys are on their way back. I know the guys, they finally get in. It's like, oh, the cavalry's arrived. I can sit back. And it happens in the Tour de France. It happens when you've got 9 riders for sprint stages. The likes of Cavendish will be covering those moves. He's not trying to get in the break. He's just trying to nullify it, because the guys will turn around and see, oh, Mark Cavendish is here. The peloton's not going to let us go. Oh, the yellow jersey, Chris Froome's here. Well, they're not going to let a break go with the yellow jersey. So by putting those big riders into those things, you know that the peloton's never going to stop, because they're never going to let those big guys go. So that's the importance of the team, and that's what Movistar have done so well this race, is just be the strongest team. And we see it year in, year out with Ineos, Sky, and it's people don't quite always see that when they watch cycling. They just see the leader, yellow jersey winner.
I've just been looking at some of the results from the time trial, the second time trial, and on the overall, Landa is 3:03 down at the moment. In that second time trial, he lost 3:03, and that's the difference. That's the difference between himself and Carapaz at the moment. Carapaz has put himself in that position, although Landa looks super strong.
So that almost answers the question I was going to ask then, because when we're talking about Nibali and Roglic and Nibali's reason for tagging on to Roglic so much is because of his dominance in the time trials, I was going to ask, are we focusing too much in the time trials? And given Simon Yates last year, and arguably that's how he ended up losing the Giro d'Italia, he was so focused on that final time trial and getting as much time as possible that he lost sight of how he was going to do that. But Landa, I guess, if he lost those 3:03 in the time trial, then...
I think if we look at Carapaz again, as Bradley was saying, we came into this race thinking about Roglic is the #1 favourite, and then there's Nibali and Tom Dumoulin. That was round about it. What were Movistar going to do after the first kind of time trials? Well, they're losing so much time. Forget about them, concentrate in the rivals round about you. It was the same last year, where Tom Dumoulin and Simon Yates had this love affair, and all of a sudden, Chris Froome, who was down on the ground, crashing and disconsolate, and he came back and won the race. So sometimes you get in a race, you get that kind of blinker syndrome, that you start to look at, you know, what's in front of you instead of taking a step back and going, look, these guys are coming. And I don't think anybody thought that. I certainly didn't think that Movistar would be in this position with first and fourth and being so dominant.
Should Nibali's DSs not have spotted that? Should they have been doing something different as Carapaz was going up the road in stage 14, or is it all too easy to sit here and talk in hindsight?
Well, I said that. I mean, at the time, Carapaz attacked on instinct. There was a lull in that front group, and they were kind of watching each other, and Carapaz just took the initiative, which we said, is he doing that for himself, or is he doing it to open that group up for Landa to go over the top again? He took the initiative, and it was his. Now, he didn't ride away on power and drop the others. Nibali, I think he underestimated Carapaz and stayed too much with Roglic and Landa. His obsession with these two. You know, you can't cover everyone. His fear is, well, if I chase him, they're going to go over the top of me. I don't want to put them in that position. And that you only have to hesitate like that for a bit, and there's enough of a gap to go, well, like, that's a bigger gap now, even bigger gap, and it's gone. And that's how guys win races, when they just you've got to take split decision and have balls to do it. And that's how we see in run-ins when there's cat and mouse, and someone takes that initiative first, and you just hesitate for a second, you think, and it's gone. The moment's gone. You touched on something, Orla, there about the sports directors, and I've said this to a few of them before, that you get so engrossed with what you're going to do in this race, your tactics, forget about everybody else. This is our plan, this is our goals, this is what we want to do. And I'm in a privileged position because I do about 150, 160 days a year, and I'm trying to work out all the teams, all 22 teams' tactics. And I think that gives me a bit more of the thought process between every team and not just that one team, because you're getting so engrossed with just your team that you miscalculate what others are doing. And I think you kind of touched on it a little bit, that, well, they're looking at themselves and the nearest rivals, then they should have noticed what Movistar were doing, and they were coming and they were planning and they were doing this double attack. You could see that.
I guess, though, like, unless you've got the best legs in the world, you can't mark everyone, can you?
No.
So you know, I think there is a definite sense that the cycling world completely underestimated Carapaz, because Landa's been off the radar for a long time, really, as a contender. He's not had a great season, particularly then when he hemorrhaged 3 minutes and 3 seconds in a time trial. You can see why. You know, you're playing the cards you've got, and you're like, well, Landa's not a threat, so let's give him a little bit of road. And Carapaz, you know, he's unproven, yeah, fourth last year, but you know, he's never been in this situation. And I guess at the end of this race, they'll probably be ruining some of the decisions that they made, but you can forgive them for making them in the first place.
Yeah, but that's what Grand Tour racing's about, I feel, as well. We always used to say, it was the same we had at Sky, G's still saying it last year, day by day. What do you think about this? Is that in the interviews last year, just said, I don't know, I'm just taking it day by day. And it was just that mindset of racing each stage as it was in its entirety. You can't think about the next day, or should I save a bit for the time trial? Because you can only deal with what's in front of you. And if that's a one-day race and it's about winning on the finish, winning at the finish line, he's going to win the race. So you go with him. You have to. I know you open yourself up. But I think you can overcomplicate it. And I was saying that Vincenzo is very emotional. He likes to kind of, you know, the rivalry and kind of looking the rivals in the face. But, you know, sometimes it works against him. Sometimes it works for him. Simon Yates last year, you know, he kept chasing time. We lead at least 2.5 minutes on Tom Dumoulin for this time trial. We get to the time trial, he only loses, what is it, a minute and a half last year. It wasn't as significant, but he's used all that energy and then the explosion at the end of it. This year, his time trialling's improved. He's going to sit in for a few days. He loses 3 or 4 minutes in the time trial. The time trial is still a performance. You've still got to go out there and produce 400, whatever it is, for 1 hour. That's a physical thing. So that's an effort in itself. That's a day. That's like any other stage. You can overthink the importance of the time trial, and you can, a Grand Tour time trial, 2 weeks into a stage race, Tom Dumoulin may not be the same rider as at a World Championship, where it's a one-day race, and people get too hooked up on losing time trial, losing time to the World Time Trial champion in a Grand Tour, when really it's part of a whole race that you've got to, and that's, again, part of the mental battle. These are all the things that riders have to think about, the mental side of it, and that's why I was praising Simon Yates so much, is because he'd come back from the bad days, and it looks like he's treating this Giro day by day, because for me, I had disappointments like that. You know, your head falls off, and that's probably why he's a better Grand Tour rider than I was. When it was going perfect, you know, it's great, but it's the bad days and how you deal with them. I think that's the most important thing.
The one thing, and that the main climb of the day, Hugh Carthy, we've been talking about him a lot, got dropped towards the top. We're thinking, oh, Hugh's dropped. He's back in there.
Don't underestimate him.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. I bet you he'll be up there at the finish.
I bet he wins the Giro now.
Hugh Carthy for the Giro
That's
win. You heard it here first. Simon, just briefly to play devil's advocate, 27.4 kilometres to go. Has Nibali run out of road already?
Well, I think he has, hasn't he, really? I think the next climb is not as hard as it needs to be, and that's even supposing that he's got the legs to drop, you know, the guy that looks like the strongest person in the race, who also happens to be wearing the pink jersey. The last climb is tough, but there's no way you're going to be pulling back, you know, multiple minutes, I would have thought. So I do worry that Nibali has run out of road, but yet there's still a lot to play for, you know, podium positions.
Absolutely. Look at that for scenery. No chance the riders will be taking in the beauty of the backdrop today, though. 27 kilometres to go on the final road stage of this Giro d'Italia. Sean and Rob will be with you in a moment.
The Dolomiti Bellunesi into a national park, into a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's beautiful, and it is the backdrop for our final showdown. We've left Trentino Alto Adige, we're back into the Veneto, and we're about to climb again. Croce d'Aune and then Monte Avena. 2 climbs, up and down, changeable gradients, a tricky descent in the middle, and 22 kilometres to make most of the big decisions in this Giro d'Italia that are yet to come. Sean, with the time trial lingering, we know that it's not the final decision, but most of what we know, and will probably be gospel by the end tomorrow, will take place in the next hour or so.
Well, certainly in this final 22 kilometres, this is where it gets difficult. You know, it climbs up for a bit, and then there's a small descent of 4 kilometres, and then the final run to the line. Not the major big climbs we've had during the day today, but still they're relatively short but very steep in sections, and at the end of a long race, a long stage, difficult stage today, you know, it's all about now who's got enough left to do the attacks, and there's some will have to try and attack because they want to move in the general classification. They've been here fighting for 3 weeks long, and you know, if you're in that position for a podium, but with the time trial coming up, which you just think a little bit, but you know, you don't think that far forward. You think about the end of this day and what you need to do, and, you know, take back some time. That's what you're hoping to do, because you're not comfortable with the position you're in to hold on to that tomorrow. So those guys will have to attack. And if you look at you know, if you look at where Nibali is, you know, with Roglic, he's going to have to try and do something and see can he break Roglic a bit, because he needs to take more time before the time trial. And yeah, down the overall standings, then Landa, of course, he would like to move up. So there's a lot happening there, and I think, yes, it will be all out here on this final run to the line in the final 22 kilometres.
Croce d'Aune, First of 2 climbs to the finish. A difficult descent in the moment, and it's the breakaway who take on the climb that helped Tullio Campagnolo to invent the quick-release wheel. That was all the way back nearly 100 years ago. Today, in many more modern times, we're seeing the best athletes in the world fight it out for the pink jersey. 21.5 k's from the finish. Climbing for the next 11 kilometres now. 5.5% average. This is what we've done so far today. We started in Feltre, 194 kilometres on the menu. It was Cimacampo, Passo Mangin, which served as Cima Coppi at this Giro. Passo Rolle, where no real action happened, and then Croce d'Aune, where we take on now. Monte Avena will be the final climb. Oh, and that's it for Capecchi. Bryce Gabier as well, having a fight as Ciccone tries his best. Already the first slopes and some damage done. Really is a climb of 3 parts this. You've got the hard start for the first 2 kilometres, and then flat-ish, as I think Capecchi finally realises that really is that this time. And then at the end, in the final 3 kilometres, uphill, very steep again, 16% the maximum gradient, and the gradient all over the place. Of course, we know that different climbers, different riders like different types of climb. Well, this is very much different to the Passo Rolle, isn't it?
Yes, well, it is. It's a difficult one here because it kicks up a bit in the beginning, then it eases off in the centre for quite a bit, and the top section is the real difficult part, where it does kick up to 16%, and a lot of the time it's 11%, 10%, so you know that it's going to hurt a lot of riders here. And you can see already the men in the breakaway, Capecchi there, you know, he's lucky, I think, to get this far into the stage, because it looked like his day was really finished a long ways out on this day, but he's, you know, held in well, and now it's 150 advantage. Ciccone there, you want to see, he wants to push on. He's hoping that maybe it will stay calm, you know, back in the peloton for as long as possible, and they might hold on to this minute and 50 advantage. But the moment they do kick off here with this terrain to the line here, it's going to be a difficult one. But is there anybody here with anything left in the legs here to put in the attack a bit further out? That's we'll have to wait and see in the next number of kilometres.
Group of favourites on to the Croce d'Aune. This is Fausto Masnada at the back of the race. He won the Cima Coppi earlier on today. Who's going to take Trofeo Torriani? That goes to the stage winner today. One of the most prestigious prizes at the end of the Giro. Andrea Amador at the front. I think we've seen Amador back to his very best. He has been one of the men of the Giro without doubt, and in this last week he's come into his own. Up the road almost every day, brilliant on the flat, solid on the descent and on the climbs, setting that pace that makes it very difficult to challenge them. Antonio Pedrero also there as well, and we've seen Hector Carretero early in the race. Movistar, top to bottom, what a strong team.
Yes, and Pedrero, I think you have to give him chapeau, because he's a rider that we haven't seen doing this before. Amador, we know in the past, like, he is a solid rider. Maybe though sometimes they are not as good as he was a number of years ago, but in this Giro he's amazing. But yeah, Movistar, it's the team that are really growing stronger as the days went on in this Giro. And when you have the race leader performing so well, we've said it before, the domestiques and the helpers, they also just, you know, they raise their level a bit, and certainly all the Movistar team have done that during this Giro, and more so as we go further into the race.
Looking to win the Giro d'Italia for the first time in 5 years, Movistar. This is their 23rd appearance of the race. 40 years they've been going, the oldest team in professional cycling. Well, the family's there, all the way from Ecuador. Richard Carapaz's wife watching on. Because he has 2 small children as well. The rest of the family all the way back in Carchi, on the border province with Colombia, at over 3,000 meters above sea level. I'm sure there'll be plenty interested watching in the capital, Quito, as well, and as far away as the Galapagos Islands, 1,000 kilometers from the capital, all the way in the Pacific Ocean. Ecuador, a diverse and big nation, but making waves in the world of professional cycling for the very first time. Giulio Ciccone attacks from the front of the race. Gap's gone down to 1 minute and 41, and Bilbao's trying to follow. This is Mikel Nieve, third on the road as well. We were talking about men of the Giro. Ciccone certainly one of them. Bryce Gabier hanging on with Kangert at the back. Dunbar still there. In that second group, you can see Madois as well as Nieve just closes it for them, and he came all the way from the back of this group. They caught them off guard. We should have tactics right by now. He's been out there and doing this every day.
I think everybody is starting to suffer here, and probably someone to maybe just stay in the wheel and get carried along there.
Movement here. This is Primož Roglic. Pardon me, I saw a brusque movement there to the right-hand side. I thought it was movement up front, Sean.
Yes, well, there's movement up front here. We can see Nieve is pushing on. 1:35 at the moment. You know, they need to keep working together if they can just keep working away at it and try and get over this climb, because 1:34, if there's an attack here on this one, well, then this advantage, a slim advantage out of the leaders will come down so quickly. But still Movistar are the ones who are controlling here. We can see a number of riders getting close to the front, but that will be normal because they want to get onto the descent as well. But
Kangert now. Kangert attacking from the breakaway. They know that chances for a stage win are running out. Tanel Kangert has been strong from start, and can he finish it? EF Education First, one of the teams that have had riders up the road. We've talked extensively about Hugh Carthy. We know Dombrowski has been very good. He sits 14th overall. Kangert 20th, looking for a stage win. And Nieve just missed the cut there. So he's trying to have to close this gap now. Kangert with Bilbao, Ciccone and Dunbar. Pink jersey group, still led by Andre Amador. Kangert waits, and it's still Nieve working. Nobody really able to shed anybody else yet. And this is where the climb gets a little bit easier now. 18.8 kilometres remaining. For the glory, says the message. And it's the last opportunity to take glory in the mountains at this Giro. Oh, look at all that message. One was Maker's dream, Vincenzo. Is there anything left in the Sharks' legs? Difficult, so difficult when there is such a strong team controlling the race. We've seen it down the years in the Tour de France with Sky, now Ineos. Movistar have been exceptional here. Bilbao, the latest to attack at the front, and it's a very brief descent section. Now about a third of the way up this climb. Doesn't drop for very long, this. At the top of the climb, then we're talking about the technical part of the descent before we get to the last first category, Monte Avena, 7 kilometres from the finish. .1:43. Nothing can separate them just yet. They've had a go at each other, Sean, but they're all still together. In this group, a little smaller. There's a few riders been whittled off the back.
Well, I think the leaders up front, they're just testing each other, see who has got something left here for the final. And still 17.4 kilometres, this Croce d'Une. It's 10.9. It starts to go downhill, so there's quite a bit. And then we have that short descent of just under 4 kilometres, and then the run up to the line. So yeah, there's a lot of terrain here. The problem is now 1:48 for the leaders here. If you're thinking of the stage here, you have to try and keep this group moving along, because you know it's not, as we've seen the past number of days, where you have a big advantage and you can play around a bit. You have to keep everybody contributing. But the problem is there was a number of guys there weren't able to contribute out of that breakaway, and they've pretty much shelled that out now. So it'll be interesting to see if they can hold on to this advantage. 1:49 still. Movistar, Amador riding away here, and yeah, it's looking okay, but there's no guarantee at all.
1:50, and Movistar controlling things. For them, it's working at the moment as it is. If it all finishes on the same time gaps, they will be on their way to Verona with huge chances of seeing Richie Carapaz. As his family's been shouting into the telly at the end, in pink. Oops. Ciccone just about in control.
Another attack here.
Valentin Madouas. Grand Tour debut for him. A huge prospect in French cycling. And Groupama FDJ brought a whole team of rouleurs to look after Arnaud Démare, plus this man to discover the roads of the Giro for the first time. This is the moment he went away. No immediate reaction. We've already seen one young Frenchman on then underestimated at this Giro d'Italia. Madouas' results already in his career should mean that they take him seriously. He is a solid rider. They carry on working together for now. Madouas already with a professional win last year at Paris-Bourges. He's only 22, the man from Brittany. Bilbao here at the front with Dunbar behind. And Movistar still Movistaring it. No signs of any life from any of the challengers yet. Remember, Carapaz carrying the hopes of a new cycling nation on his pink shoulders. Nibali, now or never maybe for a third title. His father Salvatore turns 65 tomorrow. Chance for an early birthday present, at least with a stage win. We shall see. Primož Roglic in third place at 2:16. Needs to get a little bit more time today in order to give himself a chance tomorrow. And Mikel Landa, 3 minutes and 3 down, always a threat, looking for a second Grand Tour podium. He's 47 seconds off of Roglic at the moment. Madouas with 12 seconds. Into the woods they go, and this is going to be a feature of the next two climbs. Huge wooded area in this natural park, the Dolomiti Bellunesi Natural Park. Gap to the Maglia Rosa group stand at 1:42 now. It's still Amador. This is Caruso moving up in the red. Sivakov still there, Mollema as well, Roglic in the yellow. Roglic has been isolated since the very first climb of the day, almost. Lopez in the white jersey. And what can Astana plan? What can they do? They certainly tried very hard on the Passo Mangin. The man you're watching there is Cataldo, stage winner in Como the other day. Miguel Angel Lopez on his wheel, and Jan Hurt behind him. How long can Amador ride for here? A real diesel engine. Madouas, the sun beats down. It's been beautiful weather today. 26 degrees, and well, Sean, he's opening up a gap. It's not coming down yet. 18 seconds now.
No, he's creeping it out slowly, but again, we can see that there's 6 chasers. They'll continue on to work together, and yeah, we did see the earlier attack there, Madouas. He was the one who was in a bit of difficulty, and he just on the rear and attacked from that position, and he knows that if he waits and they go into the final with the riders they have here, there's, you know, better riders and they're stronger than him, so just risk it and have a go. And it's worked already for the French team, AG2 All Mondial, so he's going to, you know, try and just get up the road, and hopefully they will, you know, look at each other for a long time. But 19 seconds in this final is going to be a hard one, but you never know, and if you don't try, you never know.
And we've seen that illustrated a lot in this Giro d'Italia, with the breakaway taking every mountain stage but one so far. We watch Lopez. We see Movistar still have control. Richard Carapaz will be delighted with how it's going so far. And we wondered how long Amador could ride. There's your answer. Finally he's done. and it's down to see what the walking wounded can do. Antonio Pedrero takes over, still all bandaged up on the right-hand side after that crash coming down from the Mortirolo at the start of the week. On that day, Hector Carretero was the top man in the mountains. Carretero dropped on the last climb, and Pedrero, who has the same coach, by the way, as Richard Carapaz, Yosone Morillo, wife of Juanjo Oroz, the former professional, coaching quite a few of Movistar's super riders. A couple of their good riders in the women's team as well, most notably Sheila Gutierrez. There's Madua, who's got 2 top 10 finishes at this Giro so far in San Giovanni Rotondo and L'Aquila, opens up now a 23-second gap. Still Pedrero, Carapaz, Landa. Dario Cataldo continues to look after Lopez, the Colombian. For Astana, it's about trying to set up a stage win now for Lopez if Bilbao and company up the road are brought back. Madua up to 24 seconds now. Another standout result of the season was a top 10 in the Amstel Gold Race. Only his 2nd season as a pro. Certainly Richard Carapaz's 3rd season amongst the professionals. As we talked to the viewers who were with us all day since the start. He only won his first stage race 13 months ago. The biggest stage race he's ever won, the Vuelta a Asturias twice, only lasting 3 days. What a difference. The sports directors pulled from the group up the road, handing out bidons into the finale. Cataldo with a word to Lopez. So Pedrero going. What happens when he finishes here, Sean? Are we going to see Movistar trying to kill this in style with another stage win, or does somebody else take over?
Well, I think it will be up to Landa to take over, but I think when we see Pedrero finishing, it could be attacks. We can see Astana hovering around there. Cataldo is just waiting there with Lopez in his wheel. I think the moment that the real strong pace goes out, or there will be attacks here, but for the moment, Movistar, Amador there earlier on, he was setting a real killer of a pace and just continuing on here, and that's the reason nobody is able to attack for the moment. They're waiting until the domestiques from Movistar are finished.
Now comes the moment. Now comes the moment. And Miguel Ángel Lopez is followed straight away by Richard Carapaz. All of the stars now forced to react. It's Lopez attacking for the 2nd time in the stage. There wasn't enough doing on the Magnan. This time on the Croce d'Aune, it's Richard Carapaz himself who follows the move down. At the moment, everybody reacting in the top 5. It's Lopez, Carapaz, Nibali. Then you have Mikel Landa. Pavel Sivakov not panicking, closing the gap. Rafał Majka's there. Hugh Carthy still in this group. Simon Yates on the back of it as well. Ilno Zakarin looks to be the only man who's starting to swing a little bit.
Yes, and we can see it's Bahrain Merida, Pozzovivo, who is just taking it up here with Nibali in the wheel, and yeah, that's the time it gets when somebody attacks, as Lopez did, and then it slows down. Unless somebody keeps, the pace pretty high, then you're open to attacks, and yeah, it's Pozzovivo who is securing the pace setting here, but all looking good there. Nibali reacting quite quickly as well, but Carapaz very impressive there, immediately in the wheel of Lopez.
Has not put a foot wrong at this Giro d'Italia. He's made 4 accelerations during the whole race, and he stood to gain from every single one of them.
And when you consider Lopez, he's 5.5 minutes plus down, so he could afford to leave Lopez just go and hang out there and play the game, the tactics, leave the others chase him, but no, immediately followed the wheel. That tells that he must be feeling good.
Lopez is going to try again. He's attacked more than the number of stages that we've had. And Carapaz once more, straight on the wheel. Nibali's going to follow easily.
And Landa.
Of course, he's going to follow. Well, Landa will be trying to put a little bit of time into Primož Roglic if he can. And Roglic now is the man who isn't quite closing the wheel to Vincenzo Nibali. And this is one to watch. Little graffiti there saying, "Bite, shark, bite." Landa now at the front. Landa looks behind, and Landa going away. Well, here we go, Mikel. Mikel Landa looking for some more freedom. And Primož Roglic having to chase him. It is Primož Roglic's third position on the podium that is looking under threat here from Mikel Landa Meana. They're inside the final couple of kilometres of this climb. After that, there's a very sharp technical descent, and then the steep 7-kilometre climb to the finish. Mikel Landa looks behind. Well, Carapaz has looked so strong that Landa been allowed to take advantage of a little bit of freedom here and put the pressure tactically at least straight onto Primož Roglic.
Well, that is the tactic. We were expecting that. Would Landa try something? Would he be allowed to try something? And we're seeing it here. He is, and he's going to try and just pull away there, because he needs to. He wants to get on the podium, and he needs to take time back on Roglic and Nibali, because they're the men in the time trial are going to cause the problems for him. And it's Roglic who has to continue setting the pace, and this is a long ways out, because we're still a number of kilometres from the top of this one, and then we have the run up to the line as well, which is another really difficult climb. Landa looking impressive when he gets in that position there. Doesn't look like he's going fast, but yeah, he's very efficient, and you can see the way Roglic is fighting behind just to keep him in view.
Primož Roglic being forced to do all of the work to defend that third position. 47 seconds between Landa in fourth and Roglic, who's in third place. Roglic decides to take his foot off the gas, and it's now down to Domenico Pozzovivo. Remember, Vincenzo Nibali, what is he, 1 minute and 9 seconds behind Landa. Also has to start thinking of his work. And remember, Bahrain Merida don't have a stage win yet as well. All sorts comes into play here. In Movistar, in Camp Movistar, I'm sure they would be delighted if Landa could go out and take a stage win. He'd be happy, and it'd be sort of a bit of a reward for all the work he's done.
Yes, it would be, and of course, to get a stage win, and also if he takes some time here, depending how much he's capable of doing, it's a good move here. And we've seen Landa, he is looking impressive there, and the moment there was a little bit of hesitation, looking at each other goes, and nobody able to react immediately. And we can see now it's Pozzovivo who has to set the pace here and try and keep his time gain to a minimum on this climb.
Marco Pantani alive next to Valentin Madouas on the road. Now, the Frenchman has 25 seconds on the rest of the breakaway group, but only 1 minute and 11 on Mikel Landa. Landa, who has 15 seconds now on those ahead. Meantime, not quite sure what that was.
Well, not at the time trial yet.
They haven't ridden it already and recorded it for tomorrow, have they? Oh, I'm not quite sure what's happening there. Well, I can promise you there's racing in the mountains somewhere. We're seeing a still image of Richard Carapaz from that time trial early on in the race. That was San Marino. Again, apologies for that. These pictures coming from our host broadcasters in Italy. Has someone gone to sleep in the truck? I wonder if the director's been drinking too much coffee earlier on today. We know that Madouas is on the attack. And here is Gebraids-Gavier attacking from the chasing group. 27 seconds to make up and trying to save Dimension Data's Giro. Thankfully, we're back to the action. Oh, dear. Well, what's happened here? Well, Sean? It's not just the TV director that's gone mad.
No, and that is a danger one for Roglic, because when you're pushed like that, the commissaires, you will not be surprised if he gets a fine for that. And he did not try and push the spectator away. He just kept on pedaling. Normally, if you try and push the spectator off a bit, and they're probably supporters, and the commissaire is going to look at him that way. So possibly you could get a time
Time penalty, yeah. And well, with the podium so close, it could be advantage Mikel Landa there. We shall see. This is a great move from the Eritrean for Dimension Data. African National Road Champion, Emmanuel Gebrselassie. 18 seconds now behind Madwa. Madwa is a minute ahead of Mikel Landa with another climb yet to come. He's very close towards the top of this one, though, the Croce d'Aune. Mikel Landa with, what, a 10-second gap now on the pink jersey. And we're looking back to see, after we were forced to pan away, who's in this group. It looks as though Hugh Carthy's lost a little bit of contact there. Not too much, however, as Valentin Madwa is just 500 metres from the top of the Croce d'Aune. It's been a good attack, whatever happens here, and an opportunity for a youngster to discover what it's like at the pointy end of a Giro stage.
Yes, well, he's had an excellent Giro, and you know, he's one of the up-and-coming stars as well, the French guy, and yeah, he's put on a great show here because he looked like he was in difficulty a number of kilometres further down when they started putting in the attacks, and you know, he got back in there with Mikel Nieve, and then he went in the attack a little bit later, and you know, he's just giving his all here, just time trialling up this climb and see, you know, can he hold on, and he's I think he's benefited from the rivalry behind, but still you have to hand it to him, he's putting up a great ride here.
Mikel Landa Meana from the Basque Country chasing on and trying to ride for the podium. The second category, Croce d'Aune, crested by the leader on the day. Valentin Madwa discovering a Grand Tour for the first time. The big moment in his season could be one of the biggest moments in his career. It's a big ask, though, with this group chasing on and the hungry GC guys behind. But again, it's stage 20 of the Giro. It's been a hard, horrid, very difficult 3 weeks in Italy. Now Landa gaining 20 seconds now on the pink jersey. And this is where Roglic and company might start to worry. Landa getting towards the top. He's 47 seconds from the front of the race now. No more bodies up the road for Movistar. But Landa, we know, has looked, alongside Carapaz, the strongest climber in this race. He has 3 Giro stage wins already in his career. He's been king of the mountains here. And these are the riders who are chasing him. Nibali, Carapaz, Lopez with Roglic, Maika, Sivakov and Mollema. Hugh Carthy in a little bit of trouble behind. Simon Yates dropped as well. We know that Ilno Zakarin was the first to lose contact. Now, who's in this group? That looks to be Yates and Jan Hurt. So Hugh Carthy not on his best day, I'm afraid. There is Simon Yates. Oh, problems for Maika. We said this descent was technical. We said this descent was difficult. Problems for Rafał Majka. And Maglia Rosa, we think, still at the front of this group. This is Bauke Mollema directly in front of us. Vincenzo Nibali just up ahead as well. But what happened? Rafał Majka.
I think it's Poziviva there's there in front. And we can see.
Oh, Majka sliding up. Oh, almost taking down Pavel Sivakov. Well, the Russian got away with that one.
Yes, that was a close one there, and yeah, if you're on the limit on the climb, of course, that's where you can make mistakes because, yeah, your focus and your reactions in the corner are not as good. Your feeling is not great, and that's when you can get it wrong and you can just too heavy on the brake. But Majka there, yeah, luckily Sivakov just about made it to get around him.
Well, thanks for your tweets. It seems as though Sean and I's television was played in with some very dodgy pictures early on, and you were seeing the race very fine at home, so which is the good news. We were seeing rewound images of Richard Carapaz in the time trial. We're seeing what we need to see now, and 8 kilometres remain. Mikel Landa with 16 seconds on the Maglia Rosa group. Strong on the uphill, descending to the final 7-kilometre climb. Still 22 seconds for Valentin Madwa.
Yes, he is holding off well, and we could see the chasers there with Giulio Ciccone pushing on over the top of the climb. But on the descent here, we can see as Nibali is the one who is causing the problems. Gaps appearing between the riders, 2 and 3, 4, 5 bike lengths, and yeah, that's the reason we could see as well that the Bora Hansgrohe man Majka just trying to get back in there on the wheels, and in this leading group, they're really scattered here at the moment.
They are. This is Pozzo Vivo on your screen. Just in front of him, Sivakov, then Bauke Mollema. Mollema again looking good. Remember, he has to ride and keep an eye on Miguel Angel Lopez for his top 5 position. Only 30-odd seconds between the two before the day. There is Lopez, just ahead of Primož Roglic, and Vincenzo Nibali is giving it some welly on the descent. Richard Carapaz sticking to him like glue, however. Nibali trying everything he can, and they're approaching now. That looks like Mikel Landa. So Landa looking strong on the climb. Now what happens here? Is he going to be allowed to go again? 6 kilometers to go. For now, you can see that Nibali and Carapaz are gaining. It's Lopez and Roglic just behind. Landa waiting up.
Yes, he's just knocked it off a bit. He can see that his Nibali is closing, and on the descent, of course, Nibali pulled back a lot of time there on Landa. But he's coming up, and Carapaz once again not leaving any of the danger men out of sight at all here on the uphill or on the downhill.
Incredible. Richard Carapaz has not put one pedal stroke wrong over the 3 weeks of this Giro d'Italia. At the moment, he's looking every bit a deserving Grand Tour winner. Still 6.3 kilometers to go at the front of the race. We're coming to the end of this descent. There's around 7 kilometers to go now for this section of the race, and they're 44 seconds behind the leader. So, Mikel Landa, Vincenzo Nibali, Richard Carapaz, a quality trio. Could be the trio on the podium tomorrow. Primož Roglic currently sits there, but they've a chance to put him in a little bit of trouble here. It's Monte Avena, it's the final climb of the day, the final summit finish of this Giro d'Italia. Nibali the Shark without a stage win. Landa looking for the podium. Carapaz wants to seal the deal. A few seconds behind to Roglic and company. Still 43 seconds to catch to the front of the race if they want the stage win. And Valentin Madouas, the sole leader, has a group hot on his heels at 16 seconds. Anything can still happen here. Bar some sort of miracle, though, what isn't going to happen is a big change in the Maglia Rosa situation, because Carapaz is looking brilliant.
Well, Carapaz is looking in excellent form again, and just able to mark anybody he wants to follow him with pretty much ease. And we can see here Nibali, he's going to push on now, because he knows with Roglic behind, he needs to take more time out of him. And 39 seconds at the moment. There's also that stage possible out there, depending on what happened up out front, how much they have got less to break away here. You know, they're all just really at the end of their energies, as we can see.
Problems for Superman Lopez yet again. If it hasn't been mechanical, it's been the legs, and today it's control on the descent. Or it might be mechanical again. Jan Hurt alongside him. Well, it's the 4th or 5th time we've seen mechanical issues during this Giro d'Italia for Miguel Angel Lopez. Now, what happened? Well, we were about to see. Oh, no! Oh, somebody's got in the way. Miguel Angel Lopez, interference from the crowd, heartbreak, and that's not the reaction you want, but you can understand the anger.
Yes, well, I think a spectator got over anxious there, and it looks like he was the one who took him down there. And yeah, this is a real bad time, of course. A disaster at this time in the stage with just 5.5 to go.
Well, they've worked all day long. They've put their team to work. There will be anger, and justified anger, at that intervention from the spectator. Nibali trying to intervene in the race himself at the front. It's another shark attack, but no bites so far in this race have managed to yield anything significant. Still 35 seconds to catch the front of the race. Still doable for a stage victory for this group?
Yes, I think still 5.4 to go for our leader, of course, so it is very possible, because we can see the way they are pushing on here. Nibali wants to keep this one going, and not getting too much support from Carapaz yet, and Landa there, he was giving it a little bit, but it looks like they're just leaving Nibali do most of the work of here. And it's in his interest, of course, for the general classification. He's the one who is going to gain big time here, and I think that the stage win as well. I think, yeah, they feel that it's possible to get back to the front, and Nibali is probably thinking for a stage glory also.
Well, this is the chasing group behind Valentin Madouas. They only have 15 seconds in front of the pink jersey right now, and it's a 15-second deficit from Valentin Madouas. Nibali, Landa and Carapaz, all working together. Tano Kangat's there as well. Remember, Hugh Carthy's lost a little bit of distance behind, and with that incident with Lopez, it's left him 35 seconds behind this group. We're going to hear about that, I'm afraid, over the next few days. It will rumble on. It's a debate that we've seen throughout the history of the sport. Remember Montezoncolan a few years ago. Francesco Manuel Bongiorno was pushed off his bike, and Mick Rogers went on to take the stage.
And we see of recent last year, Alpe d'Huez Tour de France, of course, Nibali, he got taken out and got injured and had to leave the race. So it's something we talk about a lot, the spectators. You know, they're there for many hours, and when their heroes arrive, they get over anxious, and it's amazing that we don't have more crashes because the way the spectators carry on the roadside and run beside riders.
And we want to see the passion, we want to see the excitement, but we don't want any idiots to spoil it for everybody. Poor Miguel Angel Lopez. He has had rotten luck at this Giro d'Italia. Again, there'll also be rightly questions about how he reacted to, because that was very unsightly. But you can sort of understand where it comes from. Nibali here, combining with Landa and with Carapaz. They're getting closer and closer to the front of this race now. 25 seconds with 4.5 kilometres to go. And they're getting to the steepest section of the gradient. 11%. A minute and 20 back, I'm afraid, for Lopez. It's been one of those, Giri. And we still had a decent enough gap on Pavel Sivakov. I don't think he'd be too worried about the white jersey yet, as Nibali wants to please his fans, wants the Tifosi to have something to cheer about. He wants a stage win now. He knows that for the Giro d'Italia, bar some bizarre incident or accident, the pink jersey's out of reach. All the talk of now or never, it's tending towards the latter. But can he pull off a stage win for them? I said it's his dad's 65th birthday tomorrow. An early present I'm sure will be welcome. They said in the paper he was a man for a mission impossible. It looks as though it's going to stay that way. Valentin Madois, what an effort, what an exploit on that last climb, but he's going to be caught. Mikel Nieve just behind, bringing Ciccone with him. Movement again from Nibali, and that movement's putting his old mate Kangat in trouble. Dunbar's going to be caught as well. Big ride from the Ineos man, and here goes Nibali once more. 4 kilometres to go, another acceleration, but he still cannot drop Carapaz.
Well, I think he's realised that he cannot drop Carapaz, or Landa, but he is riding here. Of course, 22 seconds he had ahead of Primož Roglič there going into this morning stage. He needs more than that for the time trial, so that is his reason for pushing on here, pull more time out of Roglič in the overall standings, and also getting ever so closer maybe for a stage victory here. And if he gets to the finish with the two Movistar riders, it'll be interesting to see what they will do. They might allow him to take the stage victory, because he's the one who's doing the big part of the riding here and pulling on the front.
And he's helping to secure the Giro d'Italia for Movistar. The more they pull out on Roglič, the less he is dangerous in that time trial. Started the day at 2:16 back, and here is the Roglič group. He's with Maika, Mollema and Yates. This is Carapaz now. Emmanuel Gebreizgabier caught and hanging on to this group. They're just 13 seconds from the front of the race. It's looking very, very good for an opportunity to take the stage win. In the meantime, you're looking at 30 seconds now, roughly 35, in fact, to Primož Roglič and company. Kangat and Dunbar not giving up hope yet. 3.7 kilometres remain. The gradient on that last climb was up and down. This is much more steady. Often 7%. 7.3% of the average over 7 kilometres. And now they get to the front of the race. Pello Bilbao up there. And he's alongside Nieve and Ciccone. Here is Bilbao, Nieve, Ciccone, and they're almost at the front of the race. Everybody together with 3.5 kilometres to go. Nibali leading them up behind, Carapaz, and then you have Landa and Madois, who's done well to hang on despite being caught. This is Pozzovivo sitting on the back of this group. Everybody riding for their own opportunities. Nibali's riding more than anybody. He knows he can't really win it now, but he knows he can secure that podium place if he carries on riding. The dying embers of a challenge at the Giro d'Italia, but still shining brightly at the top. Richard Carapaz is looking increasingly likely he is going to be the first Ecuadorian winner of a Grand Tour. I note this performance at the back. It's been very welcome for Dimension Data. Emmanuel Gebraiz-Gabier, fantastic. Really needed it, that team. They have been invisible for 3 weeks. We're with Sivakov and Roglic there. This is Nibali, Carapaz, Landa. The rest coming from the breakaway. 3.2 kilometers to go. 41 seconds on the chasing group. Of course, Miguel Angel Lopez still not yet in that group behind. Carapaz trying to stay cool. Look very, very good in pink, as I'm sure they watch on all over Ecuador. High in the mountains on his parents' farm. His granddad will have everybody round from the bar watching that little television in the kitchen where they make breakfast after they've milked the cows and fed the birds every morning. From humble beginnings to very, very high achievements. 3 kilometers left on the final mountain stage of the Giro d'Italia. It's Vincenzo Nibali at the front in the red, pedalling on. The dream of a third victory in the Giro is dying. Richard Carapaz has looked every single bit a Grand Tour winner. Both he and Landa continue to ride, and remember, it is in Landa's interest to ride here too. He is looking for a podium. He was third 4 years ago when Fabio Aru, his then teammate, finished second. He was fourth and missed out on the podium at the Tour de France by just 1 second when Chris Froome last won 2 years ago. He's now riding for Movistar, and he's a chance of finishing third. His deficit at the start of the day was 47 seconds to this man, Roglic, and now in all realistic terms, Sean, Roglic is just riding to give himself a chance of finishing on the podium.
Yes, well, he has to try and ride here, and I think he's just about getting to the finish now as best you can here, and that's what Primož Roglic is trying to do here. And we can see also up front here, Carapaz very much pushing on with Nibali and Landa, and they have some, the rest of the breakaway. They're in there. Will they be able to continue on and maybe upset the 3 big men of the day here? Ciccone, he looked impressive, but have anybody out of the breakaway left anything to be able to challenge the 3 big men of the general classification?
Well, they're getting a good tow at the moment as Landa steams up this climb through the woods, zigzagging up Monte Avena. First ever Giro d'Italia finish at the top here in this group. EF Education first. The team without a win, Bahrain Merida the other. Primož Roglic battling for his life. Oh, and this is poor Miguel Angel Lopez. Has been a Giro to forget for him. He's attacked and attacked and attacked, and it's interesting, he's attacked umpteen times, has produced no advantage, whereas Richard Carapaz has had 4 accelerations until today, and he's leading comfortably. Look at the difference on the road. 1:22 from these to Lopez as Ciccone follows the move from Kangat. So Tanel Kangat riding. EF Education first, looking for their first stage win of what's been a very good Giro d'Italia for them. I think it'd be nice to have something to celebrate at the dinner table, though. Inside 2 kilometers to go. We know that the GC situation not nailed on for every position on the podium, but the pink jersey fitting Richard Carapaz like a glove at the moment. Movistar on their way to a first win in 5 years here as Nibali goes again, another bite. Nibali for Bahrain Merida, wants to save face, wants to do it for the fans. 1900 meters to go. Sheds a little bit more of the dead wood. Nieve forced to try and close the gap. Madua, amazing, he's still there. And Kangat, who attacked the last, hanging on, gritting his teeth for dear life. Now it's Landa who sits in. Nibali still pedalling. Nobody's able to get rid of anybody.
They're finding it difficult, and Ciccone there from Trek Segafredo, he is has a pretty good sprint on him, and we've seen him in the mountain classification points. He can put in that 100-150 metres of big effort. Has he got enough left to do? Will it be the three men who have come from behind, Nibali, Carapaz and Landa? But some of the breakaway are still hanging in there as we get to 1.5 to go.
Vincenzo Nibali, more Grand Tour stage wins than anybody else on the start list at this Giro d'Italia. 13 so far in his career. We know that he's won the Giro twice, he's won the Tour de France, he has won the Vuelta a España. There's going to be no fairy tale third Giro this year, we think. Can he make it Grand Tour stage win number 14, though? Richard Carapaz wants a hat-trick, maybe. Mikel Landa, a win would be a wonderful thank you from Movistar for the work that he's done for the team. And they're all riding for time right now, and a chance to make this the podium tomorrow. He has other ideas, though. Primož Roglic will not go down without a fight. Battling and battling, and the gap's at 43 seconds. Well, at the moment, he's just about surviving. But remember, there are bonus seconds at the top, 10, 6 and 4. Roglic had 47 seconds over Landa coming into today, and you think that with the time trial tomorrow, Landa needs more time on Roglic if he wants the podium. Approaching 1 kilometre to go on stage 20 of the Giro d'Italia. It's been a marathon through the Dolomites. Up and down all day, 5 big mountain passes, a roller coaster, and they go under the Fiamma Rossa, the Flamme Rouge, that denotes 1,000 metres to the line. Richard Carapaz in the pink jersey and looking every bit a Grand Tour winner.
Yes, well, he's doing an excellent job, and he's doing this for Landa because he knows that Primož Roglic is further down the road, so they're trying to put as much time into him as possible, and you know, you just keep on driving it on here as we go inside the final kilometre, and the men from the breakaway just been getting shelled out here. But will it be at the three men we have in the front here, will they be able to fight it out for stage honours? Ciccone is the one that I see as the danger.
Ciccone waits in fourth wheel there. In front of him, you can see in the red jersey, it's Vincenzo Nibali. A look behind from Mikel Landa, who also wants the honours as well. Approaching the final 500 metres now. There's Mikel Nieve on the right-hand side in the black and yellow, looking to make it 2 wins in 2 days for Mitchelton Scott. He starts to wind it up and thinks about where he might go as well. It's Carapaz who's riding for Giro victory right now, to be confirmed tomorrow, but looking good. Look out for Bilbao on the left-hand side. He proved, of course, didn't he, in week 1, that he is strongest to the line when he needs to be. 500 metres to the line. It's only the final 150 that are as flat as they come. It's steep, 7, 8, 9% until then. Richard Carapaz riding to victory in the Giro d'Italia. He's going to be the first Ecuadorian to win the race. Behind him, Mikel Landa, and there's Vincenzo Nibali, looking for something to grab onto and take home, something to please those demanding supporters. Almost 6 hours of riding. It has been an absolute marathon today on the Giro d'Italia. We know that the legs are empty, but the desire for victory is greater than ever. The chances are running out, and when's it time to go? It's Carapaz on the front as they approach the finale. Bilbao just behind him in the turquoise jersey. There's Landa, and here goes Mikel Landa. Wants his win, going for it. It's his fellow Basque rider on the wheel, though. Landa at the front. Landa, though, going for it. Landa inside the final 150 metres, but Bilbao's going to try him. It's Basque versus Basque. Ciccone behind him. Nibali out the running now. It is Bilbao at the front, Landa behind. Mikel Landa free, but not quite managing it. Bilbao to the line. It's a second stage win for Pello Bilbao. Landa in second place. There's Ciccone, and in fourth place, and ready to win the Giro d'Italia, Richard Carapaz crosses in front of a Vincenzo Nibali, who never gave up, but at 34 years of age, did not have the legs. The Giro d'Italia in the mountains is done for another year. A time trial to confirm the results tomorrow. Landa has time, Carapaz and Nibali too, but do they have enough for that to be the podium tomorrow as Primož Roglic rides in to try and save third place? Richard Carapaz about to make history. 1 more day to go, and as we look back here, it's Roglic who has absolutely blown. He has given everything. He towed that group all the way up the mountain, and we are looking at 54 seconds there to Primož Roglič. So as it stands, with 6 bonus seconds too, Mikel Landa will be on the podium of the Giro d'Italia. However, as Hugh Carthy comes past after another combative ride, we know that Roglič should have Landa in the time trial tomorrow. We shall see. It has been exciting, it has been enthralling, but I think one of the big takeaways as well from the day was there was just nothing left in the tank.
No, nothing left. We could see him there when we hand back to him. He was just riding as best he could, trying to limit the loss to the group out front of Landa, Nibali and Carapaz, and you know, just losing second by second as we went up, and 54 seconds at the end. It's a lot to lose, but at the time trial tomorrow, that's where he will be strong. But Carapaz, you know, he did a huge amount of riding. He was hoping Landa would have it, but it was somebody from the breakaway, Bilbao, who was just had that little bit more in the end.
Lopez losing time and nearly 2 minutes on stage winner Pello Bilbao. Bilbao looking very, very good. A second stage win for him, as it was disaster behind for Astana. And you got a feel for this man. Crashing on the descent, again losing time. He has his stage win from this Giro, but the top 10, well, we'll have to see if he's done enough to sneak in there. There are riders who've lost a lot of time. The one big man to gain, though, that man at the front in the pink jersey, Richard Carapaz, barring any absolute nightmare on the final day, will win the Giro d'Italia in Verona. He has it to do in the time trial. He's certainly done it in the mountains so far. Bilbao going on the inside there and taking Landa. It was a fight between the two Basque riders, good friends to the finish. Landa going early, Bilbao perfectly timed.
Yes, well, perfectly timed, and I think Landa maybe was expecting to finish closer to the final corner. We did see he went wide there, and Bilbao came, you know, on the inside of him, but yeah, he was always going to come by him in this, you know, pretty long straight to the finish here, and Landa just taking it up that little bit too early. But Bilbao, being out there on the breakaway, still had quite a bit left.
As they say in the Basque Country, Sorionak, congratulations. Pello Bilbao has done it for a second time. And well, Astana, they might not have had it in the GC, but 3 stage wins. It's not been a bad Giro for them, has it?
No, it hasn't been a bad Giro at all when you come away from the race with 3 stages. But of course, Lopez, he's the one who's been, you know, cruel, unlucky in this race. Mechanical problems, the problem with the spectator here today. If he had been there on this final, well, you know, it would have been a different run in. But yes, that's something. That's always the risk you have in bike racing.
Risk, reward, it was all assessed before today. The reward, well, they'll be dancing in the streets of Quito tonight. A 4th place for Richard Carapaz in pink. He should win the Giro tomorrow. All the analysis coming right up after this.
Your second stage.